Assalamualaikum. Good morning. So, welcome to the second day of our conference. So, I see the attendees have started to come in, and our presenters are also ready with our producer screens to give their presentations on their work. Thank you for being with us this morning. And before we begin, and before I pass the session over to Dr. Safia, who's here next to me, I would like to remind our audiences to make sure that you sign in with your Office 365 account and register through that. Today we are going to have a few presentation, and also there is a session by Mr. Nazrin on e-learning. Okay, so without delaying the session, I would like to remind you all that if you are joining by streaming, just sit back, relax, and just enjoy the session. You don't need your microphone, you don't need your camera, and there's no daily registration. And throughout the session, if you need to ask any question to our presenters, just click the ask the question box on your screen. And please note that there will be a 5 to seconds delay for your posted question to reach us, so that then we'll be able to read it for you. Okay, so without further ado, I would like to hand this session over to our MC or moderator, Dr. Safia, who's already on standby on the next screen.
Okay, sorry for the technical glitch. Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to everyone, and welcome back to our sessions today this morning. And this is the third session for LITEC 2020. Now, first, here are the guidelines for our presenter. Now, before we start, so presenter has only 20 minutes to present the project, including Q&A. All right, I will choose and read the questions for presenter to answer. All right. Number 2, for each project, 2 reviewer panels will evaluate the presentation based on the points below. Number 1, which is the understanding in the area of teaching and learning presented. Number 2, you will be reviewed based on innovations of your project. And number 3, you will be reviewed based on the impact to the community and the society. All right. So this will be, the results will be out once we have finished or completed all the presentations at the end of the conference. So without further ado, I would like to invite our first presenter, which is B09, Dr. Nurul Huda Hamzah. All right, with the title of The Relationship Between Second Language Anxiety and Other Learner Variables. So Dr. Nurul Huda, I will pass the sessions to you. All right, you have 20 minutes.
Hello everyone. Hi, can you see the screen?
Yes, we can see the screen already.
Right, thank you so much. Without further ado, let me just start my presentation. Well, the topic for my presentation today is the relationship between second language anxiety and other learners' variables. Yeah, and first and foremost, I would like to thank ADEC, for sponsoring this particular project. Yeah, and we are so grateful. And I am Nurul Huda. I'm representing my group members, which is Nargesh, Shakira, as well as Siti Yasmin. We are all from the Faculty of Languages and Linguistics. This is an overview of our presentation today. I'll start off with introduction, followed by research problem. Yeah, and I will also discuss a little bit the aims, objective of this study, followed by some literature review, methodologies, findings and discussion. I guess this is the most important bit. And we will also provide a few suggestions based on our findings. And last but not least, our conclusion and references. Okay. These are the questions that prompted us as researchers to conduct this particular research. And basically, we focus on our undergraduate University Malaya students in, right? So these questions came up. Thought 2010 has came up with these questions. Yeah, the first question here is: have you ever wondered why do some learners feel anxious while others do not, although they are in the same classroom? Right. And the second question is, what are underlying reasons that make them anxious about communicating in English? And is this a serious problem, or is this a minor inconvenience, as some people believe it? Or is anxiety a more important issue in language learning rather than learning other subjects? And last but not least, what is the lecturers or teachers or educators' role in suggesting strategy to alleviate language learning anxiety? So because of these, points brought out by him, we thought that, why not we research further on language anxiety problem among our own students here, right? So this is the introduction. Yeah, the study of language anxiety has always been undeniably interesting issue to be discussed among not only scholars, not only teachers, but of course among the language learners themselves. And this has been, discussed over and over the century, as it always deals with the feelings of uneasiness, nervousness, apprehension in applying, of course, those 4 language skills, which is listening, speaking, reading, as well as writing via second language or foreign language. So our focus in our research here is only on one particular skill, which is speaking in the classroom. Right. There are so many definitions of language anxiety, but I think it's kind of like obvious. Some of us had this experience where we feel like freezing in the class, standing outside the door while waiting for someone up and enough encouraged to enter the class, and sometimes going blank before tests, even though we have studied so well. And there are also other psychological symptoms which commonly associated with anxiety, such as tenses, trembling, palpitation, and sometimes sleep disturbance. This is according to Horwitz and Co. 1986. Hence, the focus of our study is on our own university students learning English as their second or foreign language. Okay, the main problem here is, the issue of language anxiety in learning a language should be, we feel that we should pay more attention, as it can be deliberating factor that prevents prevents learner from sharing their full potential. So many people are willing to learn English as their second or foreign language. However, most English language learners frequently express the feeling of stress and nervousness in attempt to speak in the English language. So this is according to Masood. As the result, learners would prefer to stay quiet or passive in the class instead. So in order to explore more, we believe that many studies on language anxiety have been conducted in the context of university students, and indicating that language anxiety among university students are quite worrying. Hence, by referring to the previous study from our literature review, it is to be found that it is interesting to explore and understand the level of anxiety among our University Malaya students. So, basically having this study is also to identify not only their language anxiety in learning, but also to focus on these 3 selected variables, which are gender, language achievement and speaking skill as the potential predictor to the language anxiety. Okay, these are some of the literature review. So there are many, of course. So let's have a look at Cattell and partner, 1961. He stated that anxiety can be either described as a fleeting emotional condition that surfaces when the student faces a critical moment, such as exam, obviously, or a comparatively steady characteristic. Right. Another scholar, Rice et al., 2009, mentioned that students experience anxiety as a common response to everyday challenges. It's quite common. But somehow this can affect their performance, as small amount of anxiety can be stimulus and to learning, but large amounts may paralyze a student's performance. So the latest that we managed to find is by our own scholars, from University of Malaya, Young and Safari in 2019. They state that anxiety manifests in different ways, such as diminishing interest in succeeding, delaying completion of tasks, mood swing, and amplifying existing problem. So somehow, these may lead to negative consequences, as according to Martin and Marsh, as well as Sagar, says that among the consequences are such as decreased self-confidence, poorer self-control, diminishing grades, low motivation, unfavorable thoughts, and a proper quality of involvement. Right. Hobbits in 1986 mentioned that there are three components of foreign language or second language anxiety, which are communication apprehension, test anxiety, as well as fear of negative evaluation, which may be independent of each other. Right. Let's have a look at the method. So basically, the design of our study is primarily quantitative in nature. Hence, the purpose is to form the relationship between learners' variables that could become the predictor to the second language anxiety. So the background information from the questionnaire that we provided is basically a brief introduction to the study and provide instructions for the students to complete the survey. Questionnaire regarding communication apprehension was taken as well to measure student speaking skill, which indicates their language learning is affected by language anxiety. So the collected data from the language anxiety questionnaire was analyzed using SPSS software in order to obtain statistics. Right. So our participant, as mentioned earlier, are our undergrad student from different faculty. For instance, we have law, business, languages and linguistics, engineering, as well as information technology. And these students are aged between 19 to 25. And of course, they enroll to our English language courses from Faculty of Languages and Linguistics, and they came in, and we managed to get 100 participants. Right. So from our findings, we managed to come out with this. Males are more anxious compared to female. Our null hypothesis was there is no significant relationship between learners' language proficiency and L2 speaking anxiety. So we used Pearson correlation analysis was performed to measure the strength and the direction of the relationship between learners' language proficiency and L2 speaking anxiety. So the descriptive statistic analysis was evaluated along with the result of the Pearson correlation. As you can see in table 1, the minimum and maximum score for the male anxiety as well as female anxiety, and we found that the mean score for male language anxiety is 98, whereas as for the female language anxiety is only 92. Right. The result from table 2 indicates that males are more anxious compared to female in our current study. So, where according to table 2, the minimum and maximum communication apprehension for male is 14 and 24, while for female is 18 and 26 respectively. So, the mean score for male is 20, whereas for female is 24. So you can, and the next finding is language anxiety affect the students' willingness to communicate. So as our study, as what we have here, our study attempted to check whether language anxiety can have any significant effect on male and female learners' speaking ability, right? So, as shown in table 4, the correlation value R is -654 and the p-value is 0.000. So, this value indicates that there are a significant high correlation and negative relationship between female foreign or second language anxiety and willingness to speak. So based on the analysis, it can be said that as the language anxiety is higher, the willingness to speak decreases. And as for as you can see in table 5, there is a high relationship between male foreign language anxiety and willingness to speak. And from this result, it shows that there is a negative correlation between these variables. In fact, the null hypothesis, according to the p-value, is rejected. So these also indicate that as male language anxiety increases, the willingness to speak decreases. Right. Okay. From figure 1 and 2, so based on these two figures, a high and negative relationship between willingness to speak and language anxiety among female and male learners was somehow discovered. Looking back at the study conducted on communication apprehension, the fear of speaking is a significant source of anxiety, according to Shabani 2012. Communication apprehension significantly deals with negative feelings to speak with others. Thus, it can lower the level of desire to speak. This is according to McCroskey 1992. So basically, the findings of our current research are consistent with other scholars. Like for instance, McCroskey and Richmond study in 1990 stated that willingness to communicate tends to be affected by an individual anxiety. When learners are able to speak in the classroom, it means that they have the ability to raise their confidence and not intimidated by their peers or their teachers or educators' judgment. Right. These are some suggestions from our findings. We believe that teaching and teachers should strengthen their teaching and learning strategy to cater different students. Basically we can look at we can just reflect through their level of English in the classroom, and from there what we can do is we can adjust or strategize our teaching and learning strategy. And of course, teacher training courses, even though we have been to many, but then from time to time we have to keep ourselves updated with the current for instance technology, and we have to also take into account the effective psychological technique. This is to decrease the language learning anxiety among students. And as educators, I would also encourage every one of us to set up a very conducive classroom environment. Doesn't matter whether it's online or face-to-face. And it will also be helpful if we can give feedback to the students, whether it is face-to-face feedback. What I mean to say is individual feedback or maybe group feedback. Yeah, so that would be really helpful. And of course, create more classroom activities to ensure that those students who are facing anxiety can overcome their anxiety in the classroom. Right. As a conclusion, the findings of the current study might be, helpful and obviously applicable to English teachers inside the classroom. So, as students feel, anxious and nervous, they might not understand all language input, and hence communication apprehension occurs. So, it is necessary, for the participants of this study to increase their desire to speak, as for them having a willingness to communicate with people around them is quite crucial. So yeah, and hopefully this study can be helpful, yeah, in especially to the English teachers or lecturers or any educators in the university as well as outside the university. With that, thank you.
And language anxiety.
Right.
We'll wait for a few seconds if there is a questions from the reviewers or from the participants. Otherwise, we will continue to the next presentation. But I received one question here. The question is that in terms of the language anxiety, they have suggestions talking about we should have some strategies, right, to manage the language anxiety among the students so that they be able to reduce, they will be able to improve their speaking skills and so on. But do you have any idea of what sort of strategy that we can use to reduce the anxiety?
Okay, from our findings, we believe that giving students feedback from time to time might be very helpful, and in order to encourage those students to speak in the classroom, it's best to have varieties of classroom activities. And rather than giving them individual tasks, probably having a group task might also be helpful. Because they can help each other, and from there, it will somehow help them to be or assist them to be more confident. Rather than asking them to present alone, that can be done, but over time. Yeah, not during the first or second week, probably towards the end. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Huda. But may I know what language are this class actually involved in? I mean, is this a foreign language or some other language? Or English?
As for this study, we just focus on English language.
Oh, only on English. All right, noted. Okay. I have another question from the evaluator, right? The question is, for your research problem, what is the current situation among UM students themselves that led you to carry out the study?
Okay, so since I mentioned that we have students from other faculties as well, right? To us, those students who are from our own English language department has lesser problem. But when we have classes with students from other faculties, we encounter that some of them feel a bit they don't feel like talking in the classroom. They've been so passive. So and then we encounter in so many of our classes, reason being is not that they don't know, but they are nervous. They're not sure whether their English is correct, or should they correct their grammar in every single sentence and whatnot. So by having this research, we will in future maybe, will dig more problems that faced by our own students, especially in English as speaking classroom.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Dr. Huda. We don't have any other questions for you, so thank you for your presentations. All right. Thank you. So without further ado, I would like to move to the next session. The next presenter, B10, Dr. Soong Ming Foong, with the title of Bringing Personalized Learning via Learning Style Preferences in Coursework. So can't wait to hear from you, Dr. Soong. I leave this session to you. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Dr. Soong.
Okay, so I think let me just share my desktop now.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can see your desktop. Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so I think I'll begin now. First thing, very good morning to everyone here, okay, who joined this session. I'm Soong. I'm from the Department of Mechanical Engineering, Faculty of Engineering of UM. So today, I would like to use this chance to actually talk about my group's LITEC project. Yeah, that is really about an effort of bringing this personalized learning by incorporating what we call learning style preferences in the coursework of a particular engineering course. Yeah. Okay, so I would like to begin by taking an overview of the current education scenario. So I remember that many years ago, we once had the 9 challenges of Vision 2020. And one of the challenges is actually about establishing the scientific and progressive society. So of course, with this, for many years, Malaysia actually wanted to achieve I think around 30% of its nation to get higher education, to be highly educated. And so of course, today we are at the year of 2020. And where exactly are we now? We have currently, of course, more IHLs than ever before. And according to the latest publicly available data, sorry, just hold on. Yep. So according to the public available data from Ministry of Education, there is currently 20 public universities with 447 private institutions. And if we move on to some online scenario, we see well-known online learning platforms like Coursera, like FutureLearn, and also Open Learning, which is currently the official host of the Malaysian MOOC initiative. So from here, we can see that generally there is now greater opportunity to higher education, possibly due to lower barrier of accessing this higher education. But of course, with any new opportunity comes new challenges as well. Yeah. So in particular, I'm talking about the increase in the number of students, or indirectly the growing class size here. So, for example, if you take a look at a rather unofficial observed data from my very own department, mechanical engineering. So, about 10 years ago, 2010, I think we had about 80 to 100 students per intake. And I actually know of this number because I was one of the 85 students who graduated in 2010. So when we move forward to a recent few years, in 2016, we had 120 plus students who, by the way, will be graduating this year in October. And 17, 18, and 19, or the latest one, we now have about 190 to about 200 students per intake. So this is the number for mechanical engineering program right now for my own department. And of course, nowadays, obviously, a course is no longer taught by a single lecturer, especially for compulsory large courses, and instead is taught by a team of, let's say, 2 or 3 lecturers here. So in terms of the staff to student ratio number, the ratio has been quite finely kept. But of course, sometimes for consistency purpose, which I think sometimes really is needed. Okay, the course delivery, like the course material, such as the notes and also the coursework design, they are usually made standardized or they are made the same. Okay, so with this, we still see some one-size-fits-all approach in teaching and learning, especially for large courses. And this is really getting more and more unsuitable nowadays, considering the growing class size. And well, in other words, we see that some sort of customization or let's say personalized learning is really more and more needed nowadays in order to solve this challenge of increased number of students. Yeah. So exactly what is personalized learning here? Now, I think it's not too difficult to actually get the general meaning because there are really a lot of explanations that we can find almost everywhere. And over here, what I'm showing is actually just one of the many explanations. This is actually by the US 2016 National Educational Technology Plan. So according to this description, personalized learning is an instruction in which the pace of learning and the instructional approach, they are optimized. And we have things like the objectives, the approaches, and the content that may all vary based on the needs. And of course, additionally, we also have the activities that are relevant, driven by interest, and self-initiated. So this is a very general, very typical explanation to personalized learning. But of course, if we actually focus on, let's say, just the keywords, we can actually see that there are two major components of personalization in learning. The first one is a self-paced learning, and the second one is related to instructional approach. And then, of course, if we dig a little bit deeper, we can see other keywords like interest-driven and also self-initiation. So ultimately, the biggest goal of personalization in learning is to really give that flexibility, to provide the freedom, to give the authority to the learners when it comes to learning. So for example, when they are going to learn and how long they want to learn each time, and especially in what way that they prefer to learn. So I've already mentioned about the self-paced learning and also the instructional approach as the two components here. For the self-paced learning, I think there have already been quite a number of ways that this can be conveniently be embedded into some known educational approaches like the blended learning or flipped classroom or modern tools like video recording software to actually produce pre-recorded videos to be hosted online to really achieve the self-pacing in learning. But of course, let us not forget about the second domain as well, the instructional approach. Because to me, I think these two must work hand in hand together in order to really maximize the potential of personalized learning in improving learning in general. So what about instructional approach and content then? Now, I think one possible way of achieving personalized learning in the instructional content is really by considering the learning style preferences when it comes to the course delivery or the course content, such as the coursework design, which is exactly what this LITEC project is about. Yeah? It's about incorporating what we call learning style preference in the coursework of a particular course. Okay. So speaking of the learning style preferences, of course, I think logically there can be many kinds of categorization, but the one that we are focusing here is the VARK learning style, which was proposed by an educator from New Zealand called Neil Fleming back in 1992. Yeah, so it's actually quite a well-known and established categorization of learning preference. So according to Fleming in 1992, he actually proposed a few learning categorization or learning preferences based on the sensory modality. For example, we have visual learning preference, oral learning, read-write learning preference, and also the kinesthetic learning preference, 4 of them in total. So of course, logically, we also have 4 major types of learners by this categorization. So we have visual learners who, not all the time actually, but usually prefer to learn from anything visual like graphs, charts, diagrams, and so on. And we have oral learners who generally prefer to learn from discussions, yeah, such as listening to speakers, like attending to lectures, yeah, in general. We also have the read-write learners who prefer to learn from text, yeah, such as notes and also a list of points. Yeah. And finally, we have the kinesthetic learner as shown here, who obviously prefers to learn from examples, from practical exercises, or basically anything hands-on, yeah, to get a feel on learning. So the entire intention of this LITEC project is really to incorporate or to embed this VARK learning style in a coursework of a particular targeted course. Right. Now, a bit of background here. When I was applying for the LITEC project, it was actually during the July and August of last year. So I think most of us were actually preparing for the new session or the new semester. And by a new timetable arrangement, I was actually supposed to be in charge in a third year compulsory course, a large course from of the mechanical engineering program. It's called Instrumentation and Measurement Techniques. So this is basically a course about like knowing the instrumentation and measurement in various engineering encounters, yeah, like measurement of dimensions such as length, distance, and so on. Yeah, measurement of let's say vibrations, yeah, or movement and acceleration, measurement of forces, yeah, tracking of temperatures, pressures, and many more. And by this synopsis, and also by taking a quick glance on the course learning outcome as displayed here, we can roughly see that this is a half theory, half practical course, which I think is likely benefited from some kind of practical coursework, rather than the very conventional written ones like the Q&A assignment or a written test. And actually, by my observation, a lot of this compulsory core course in engineering program, when it comes to the continuous assessment tools, right, it still largely rely on the written test, yeah, written assignment, which I think is actually not so flexible. Like when it comes to learning style preference, it probably will only favor one type of learner, like the read-write learner. So in an effort to actually enable the full range of VARK learning style just now, my team and I actually decided to actually adopt some kind of project-based assignment as the coursework instead. Yeah. Okay. So this coursework is basically a group project, and it's a very open-ended design project whereby the students are required to design and develop some kind of a complete measurement system, starting from, of course, the hardware selection, yeah, the sensor and so on, to the assembly of the entire system, and finally to the programming, the coding using the software, since this is computerized measurement nowadays, and all the way until reaching the complete model or the prototype. Yeah. So presumably following some modern applications that belong to the smart applications nowadays, like the smart home, smart factory, smart transportation, and so on. Yeah. So a bit of context for your information, all of our applications in the smart systems, they are basically sensor-based systems, and they which actually require some measurement of the data or variables in order to do some decision making. So these are definitely related to measurement systems and really relevant to the to this measurement course here. So in terms of weightage, the coursework was given 30 marks, yeah, with an additional 10 marks actually given for an exercise, for an extra software training that the students really require in order to complete the coursework. So we can see that the coursework really has a heavy weightage for the continuous assessment of 40 marks here. Okay. Now, exactly how this coursework can be related to VARK learning style and therefore achieving some sort of personalization in learning. So while it may seem to be not too different from very similar kind of project-based assignment, it is the group work nature and also the very open-ended design nature of this coursework that really enables the VARK learning style concept to be incorporated in the coursework. I mean, this is a coursework that really consists of a wide variety of individual small tasks, with different emphasis on the V, the A, the R, and the K learning style. So for example, when it comes to the visual learning, suitable tasks relevant to the coursework can include creating block diagram for that graphical software coding, graphical coding of the software, or even as simple as watching video resources and studying the wiring and the circuit diagram of the sensors. Meanwhile, for the oral learners or sometimes auditory learners, suitable tasks in the coursework can involve consulting experts, for anything basically, and leading the discussion in brainstorming or leading the preparation of the oral presentation. Meanwhile, for the read-write learners, suitable tasks can involve reporting and all kinds of studying of the technical documents of the hardware, like even benchmarking using the list of hardware specifications, so anything text-based. And finally, we have the kinesthetic learners, and the suitable tasks obviously involve the system assembly and the building of the model or prototype, as well as some other things like functionality testing and also the calibration work of the sensor. So do take note that it is the open-ended design nature of this coursework that really brings a wide variety of tasks to encompass the entire range of VARK learning style. And also it is the group work nature that enable the student within a group to negotiate and arrange among the members to actually choose the task that they prefer or they like to actually carry out. So this achieves some personalization in learning. Now, a bit of information on the implementation. The coursework was actually administered in the second half of the semester, generally following a simplified timeline as displayed here. So of course, at the very beginning, we had the briefing of the coursework, and the students were also briefed about the VARK learning style concept, and they were actually encouraged to take a standard questionnaire regarding VARK also to know about their learning preference. So this is a standard questionnaire created by the pioneer Fleming himself, and is actually made freely available on his own website. So it's a standard questionnaire. Okay, but other than that, it's mostly about project work on a weekly basis with continuous tracking on the student progress all the way to the presentation and the final demonstration of the working model. And to complete the LITEC project, we also had some preliminary requirement of software training to the students and also a post-coursework survey done on the student to actually get some feedback here. Now, when given the freedom and flexibility, right, to do what they want, what they prefer in doing the coursework, and therefore having some personalization, what exactly did the students come up with? Well, some really interesting ideas. So I'm going to showcase like one or two of them. Yeah. So the first showcase is actually some sort of smart transportation implementation by the students with a context of urban city. And according to the students, there are pretty much like three individual applications forming the system, namely some sensor-based lighting operation that turns on and off the lights based on the environment lighting situation. We have the motion sensor-based vehicle detection for red light crossing. And we also have a very realistic parking slot indicator based on the infrared proximity sensing. And do take note that this kind of sensing principles or sensor components, they are actually being covered in the lecture, the regular lecture. Yeah. So the second showcase here is yet another smart system in transportation, but this is with consideration on the road and traffic condition. The students actually proposed something really interesting here. They actually wanted to achieve some kind of dynamic speed limit signboard, which changes the display number according to the surrounding safety conditions, including things like, let's say, the presence of rain, using humidity sensor, the environment brightness or darkness, using the light sensor, and also even the traffic density, the congestion condition, using some derived object detection approach. So really interesting idea and complete prototype from the students. Okay. And here is yet another showcase, but this one is regarding achieving a modern and convenient home here, with a few things like the smart entry indicator, automated lighting, and also automated ventilation based on the measurement of the indoor room temperature. Now, the reason that I'm actually showcasing all this is actually not just to highlight the students' creativity in ideation. They are definitely creative, and definitely I have no doubt about it. But another reason is also to highlight the effort that they have put into this coursework. Just take a look at the models that they came up with. So what I want to say here is that I think students from many groups actually showed deep engagement towards completing the coursework, and presumably due to the interest in doing what they prefer to do, let's say according to the VARK style categorization. So overall, I think that this coursework seems to be quite effective in improving learning. I mean, in bringing learning by doing something, right? But this is, of course, just my own perception, based on my observation on the effort put by the students. And we still need some numbers to actually further support this. So let's take a look at some quick statistics after following the semester. Yeah. Now, the first one that I want to showcase is the course learning outcome, because the course outcome, or COs, is probably the important objectives of conducting a course, since UM has been implementing the outcome-based education for quite some time, right? And so for this course, there's a total of 4 COs, with the first 2 especially relevant to the coursework here, the project-based assignment. So basically, after when everything was actually done and evaluated, my team and I actually had observed an achievement of actually 90% of the CO achievement, and this is of course based on the standard criterion of.
Sorry, Dr.
So,
Soong, you have 2 more
yes.
minutes. You have 2 more
Okay,
minutes.
yeah, all right. I'll just speed up. Yeah, okay. So following the standard criteria, so I think achieving 90% for coursework achievement when the current implementation by my faculty 70% seems to be quite reasonable and quite encouraging. Okay. And there is also agreement with perceived achievement by the students, what they actually felt regarding this achievement with the actual achievement here. And this is really based on a post-coursework survey, which was also part of the LITEC project. Yeah. The first 4 questions were actually designed to inquire how the students felt about learning related to these 4 COs. And here we see the consistency, which I think is a good sign. So we have the confirmation here that the CO is really achieved, and the students also agreed. Yeah. And the next one I want to showcase is basically a survey, post-coursework survey, which consists of 16 questions actually. And the first 4 questions were already discussed about the students' perceived achievement. And the rest are actually regarding inquiries on a few things, like the effectiveness of the coursework in bringing learning, on the interest of the students to actually further explore measurement topic even after the coursework, and also on the preference of the coursework. Yeah. And based on the survey that we actually conducted, the outcome is that generally there was quite positive feedback given by the students. In terms of effectiveness, we see that generally the students felt that they can now perform the steps, the setup of measurement system more confidently, and they generally agree on this. So showing some effectiveness of this coursework in bringing learning, of the overall course. And when it comes to the interest, I think the students generally feel that they are now interested in exploring the topics of measurement even after the coursework, after the course. And I think this is important because this measurement is often required in subsequent courses, like the final year thesis project, where they need to actually use the skill that they learned here. And finally, when it comes to the preference, the students actually send a very clear message here. They really prefer to have this kind of project-based assignment in comparison to the very regular, written kind of Q&A assignment. Yeah. Now, for my final few words, I just want to reiterate this point. Basically, my team and I feel that implementation of the group project as a coursework, especially in engineering course here, is quite effective in bringing personalized learning. Why is that so? Because a course with broad task distribution and also a course with open-ended design nature really enable that possibility of a wide variety of the learning style preferences to be made freely available to the students. I mean, of course, they need to negotiate and arrange among their group mates, but generally it's quite flexible. So therefore achieving personalized learning, and it makes the learning more effective. But over here, I just want to say that we are not proposing something, or we are not doing something totally revolutionary. It's still a project-based assignment. It's still quite similar. And we are actually just proposing a coursework design. And we believe that this framework can be adopted not just in engineering, but even in other non-technical courses as well, as long as the courses can be benefited from this kind of broad task distribution and open-ended project nature. And over here, my team and I, we would definitely like to see this happening. Okay. So I think with this, I've reached the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for your attention. Thank you. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Soong. for very enlightening presentations on the coursework, yeah, the personalized learning with the very interesting coursework that you have actually shared with us. But without, because we don't have much time actually, so I'm just going to go straight to the questions from our evaluator. All right, so the first question is, for each group, the members comprise students with the same learning preference or a mixture of them? If not, how to relate the output of the assignment with the VARK model?
Logically, for each group, because the students were actually assigned to groups randomly, so I think logically we have a mixture of a few learning style preferences. And actually, due to time constraint, I wasn't able to display one of the VARK questionnaire outcome. So from the outcome that was actually done at the beginning of the coursework, the main outcome from the questionnaire survey was that a lot of the engineering students, even though their kinesthetic score is actually quite high, but they are mostly multi-domain. And this is actually quite consistent with some other previous survey. So I think generally we are quite sure that we have established the full range of VARK learning style for the groups. Yeah.
Okay. So there's another question saying that so how was the constructive alignment to be done in order for you to assess the level of your OBE achievement? So did you do on that?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Okay, so the question is that, have you assessed the VARK concept achievement and the assessment towards the OBE concept? OBE concept is the objective-based education. Are you familiar with the terms?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So did you do any constructive alignment against that OBE achievement?
For the OBE achievement, actually, it's following the course outcome achievement that I showed just now.
Okay,
yeah.
right.
And meanwhile, I think in terms, the other one is
just to see whether there's a constructive alignment done to assess the level of OBE achievement.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the question.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, Dr. Soong, I do agree with you. They're saying that the number of class is actually increasing, like you said, right? Nowadays we have like about 200 students in one intake. Yeah. So I know, like, how do you actually when you do this different sort of like a mixture of learning, assignment. So how do you ensure that they are actually basically would be able to complete all the assignments within your time? I mean, within the deadlines, because there's a lot of students at the same time, and then you have several different sort of assignment activities. So how do you ensure that the timing and everything is actually within the semesters? Because you're doing about 7 weeks, right? You said that you.
Yes. In the second.
So how do you plan for that?
Actually, I think by our usual experience, I think the students, if we don't push them or if we don't keep reminding them, I think they will probably wait until the last 2 weeks and then they rush everything.
Yeah.
So during that time, there were 2 things that I actually considered. The first one is to announce that to actually kind of preview the coursework handout sheet as early as possible. And then the other one is actually some consultation sessions consultation sessions that were conducted in the lab space, the instrumentation lab.
Right. Okay.
And I was there to actually meet the groups to ensure that they really did something. Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right. Thank you, Dr. Soong. Thank you so much for your presentation. All right. So, without further ado, I would like to carry on, move on with our next presenter, which is B11, Associate Professor Dr. Thirunaukarasu, with the title of Teaching Economics to Non-Economics Major Students in a Malaysian Public University. Very interesting title. I would like to, listen to this. So I will leave the sessions to you, Dr. Thiru.
Can you see the screen? Hello?
Yes, we can see the screen, Dr. Thiru.
Okay, thanks. Thank you. Can I start?
Yes, you can start now.
Okay. Okay, good morning, everyone. You can see my slides, right? Can you? Hello?
Are you referring to the slides or to the
Yes, my
article that you
slide.
share? Because right now we are seeing your article, the words file.
Okay, sorry. Oh, okay, gosh. What did I do? Maybe I should just, I just close this.
What you can do is that you can unshare the current screen and then you reshare again for your slides.
Okay. Is this okay? Yeah.
Yes, we can see your slide now.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. So today I'm going to present, this is actually the grant that we get under ADAC, yeah? So about 5,000. So we decided to come up with this research called Teaching Economics to Non-Economics Major Students in a Malaysian Public University. As you can see, there are two authors of this, The first one is myself. Second one, we got Dr. Sharifah from economics. So it's a joint research between two faculty, yeah, Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences, and also Faculty of Economic Creation, yeah. So let me just go into the introduction. Okay, what happened is that we have same module but offered in two different faculty. The first one, we have Economic Development in Southeast Asia, okay, which is offered at our faculty. Okay, on the other hand, we have Development Economics, which is offered by FEA, yeah. It's actually the same course, we use the same reference book, but the way we handle is, it's different, yeah, because we got different learning outcome, yeah. Okay, so if you look at these two courses, which is offered in two different faculty, at our faculty, Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences, there's no prerequisite, yeah, despite this module being a compulsory module, yeah. On the other hand, in economics faculty, it's compulsory for them to have at least STPM level economics or matriculation level economics. Okay, so it has always been a challenge to me, for me, yeah, to teach. The reason being, the student comes without background. So, you know, to the point that some basic concepts like demand and supply, you know, poverty, distribution on income, all this becomes a challenge for them to understand, yeah. Means to say, I have to kind of like go into the basics, yeah, to enable them to understand the more advanced concepts, yeah. Okay, so the challenges has been, the first one, challenge to teach due to the knowledge gaps that exist between students. Even within the class that I teach, I have two group of students. Some have basic, some got some basic, while others without any basic, literally zero, yeah. Okay, and then another challenge that poses is setting up exam questions that could cater for students with and without prior knowledge in economics. So basically, I have to take some sort like a middle point, yeah, so that both parties will be able to basically answer the exam question. Okay, and then the outcome is normally a wide range of scores for the final examination, yeah. Normally those with some economics background, they tend to do much better, yeah. So basically, this is what we're going to prove in this research, yeah. Students may rate the instructor with lower scores, okay, which in turn will affect the instructor's annual performance. Okay, so these are the, I would say, problem statement, yeah, that I have. Okay, so the objectives, I have about 6 here. Firstly, want to identify the main challenges faced by the enrollee. Second one, identify the factors considered to enroll in the module, to analyze the determinants of performance in the module, and to trace the improvement made between entry and exit survey, and to test if there is a significant difference in the achievement of Malaysian exchange student enrolled in the module. So I just want to highlight here, in the recent batch that I taught, I had about 19 Malaysian students and 11 international students, yeah. So the international student basically come from Japan, and China. Yeah. Okay. And finally, to evaluate the role of personalized learning as an intervention method in improving the performance of the enrollee in the module. Yeah. Okay. So past studies basically do a bit of classification based on the themes. The first one, if you can see here, motivation, why people want to study economics, but I'm not going to dwell long on this. Okay. Okay. The motivation to study economics, among students is it allows students to have the ability to confer superior understanding of world issues. So basically it's understanding what's happening around them. Yeah. So eventually when you look at one of the questionnaires that I distributed, I asked them, did you really benefit from this course? And all 30 of them, they basically said yes. So now we are able to basically understand what's happening around us. Before we joined this class, we were not really able to grasp what are the changes that's taking place, in the Malaysian economy as well as the global economy. Yeah. Okay. And then a study done by Danny compares factors which influence success for economics and non-economics major. So found that economics major achieve 5% higher grades, which may indicate increased motivation and interest by the student. They also found that the performance secondary school and prior economic studies. So what I want to highlight is that prior economic studies becomes very important, yeah, for them to perform well at the tertiary level course. Yeah. Okay. So next one. Using technology, okay. So if you look at Mo and Paparas, they use a program called Kahoot. Yeah, I don't know what it is, but what we do is in our university, basically we use our Spectrum. Yeah, so that should be the technology that we normally employ in order to facilitate our teaching and learning. Yeah. Okay. And then challenges, of course, there are a lot of challenges. Yeah, as you can see here. Numerous studies have covered challenges that impact student performance. To gain an understanding in economics, students need to have aptitude in both abstract thinking and in application. What is important is when you are learning economics is actually the analytical skills. Yeah, you give them a situation, whether they are able to analyze that particular situation. That's very, very important. That's why normally economists, they are able to basically analyze a lot of things. Yeah, with whatever that they have gained over the years. Yeah. Okay, and then Wulandri Narma find that some topics are assumed very hard to understand and students memorize when they have tests and suddenly forget everything when the test is over. So this is also another thing that we observed in my class. Yeah, so that's one. And then the last part, which is the personalized learning. So it's interesting. I plan to do this personalized learning, but I actually divert this whole personalized learning into a different dimension. Yeah, so I have to do that for some reason, which apparently I'll inform you. Okay, the listeners. Yeah. Okay. So research methodology. So I got 31 enrolled, 1 disqualified because she didn't participate in the questionnaire, which was distributed at the beginning as well as the end of the semester. So I had about 30. Out of these 30, I had about 19 Malaysian and then 11 foreigner, as I mentioned. They came from Japan as well as China. So assessment plan. So these are the assessment plans. Stage 1, we divided into several stages. Yeah. The first stage is the instructor aim to give a short test, as we all know, entry survey to test the students' understandings of basic economics that are related to economic development. Some of the common concepts that we include is poverty, human development, human capital. The result from the entry survey gives an indication on the students that need monitoring. More online activities using the will be given to underperformer, which we did. Okay, but it's just for the entire class. Yeah, that's what we did. Yeah. Stage 2, a mid-test is given at Big 7 to monitor the progress of the students enrolled in this module. This test will give an indication regarding further intervention that needs to be given to students that perform poorly. More activities will be assigned to the underperformers via personalized learning. Yeah. And stage 3, the instructor will give an exit survey, which comprise of similar question given at the entry survey held at the beginning of the semester in order to retest the understanding of the student. Yeah. Okay. Go into intervention. This is basically intervention. We are talking about our personalized learning. Yeah. So what we did is that we identified students who got 50 marks and below, and they were actually earmarked to go through this personalized learning. Yeah. Okay. And then results and discussion. So out of these 30 students that were enrolled in this particular module, these are the demographic profile. So as you can see, a local student, there are about 63%, an exchange student about 36. And then we did ask mother's education level, father's education level. Okay, look at that primary problem encountered. Yeah. So basically they highlighted this. Yeah. The first one is lack basic economics knowledge. And then second one is poor in mathematics, poor English. Okay, and then the secondary problem, actually most of them, about 10, mainly foreign students, they highlighted that their poor command of English actually become a hindrance for them to perform well in this particular module. Yeah. Okay. So what we did basically is we took that 30 respondents. Yeah, the questionnaire that they filled up. So we did a factor to identify what are the reasons they decided to choose this particular module. Yeah. So this is basically to ensure that whether the result that we obtain through factor analysis concurs with our what do you call it, our C-test score. Yeah. So because the reason being the C-test score looks very high, but then it just include only our Malaysian students. So we don't have international student being included our C-test score. Somehow we look at the result, it says that instructor factor is actually the main reason why they were actually enrolled in this course. Yeah, generally. Yeah. And then you can see under the instructor factor, there are a few sub items that's being highlighted. Yeah. Such as instructor able to make me understand better the subject matter and so on and so forth. Yeah. Okay. And then second one, appropriate time scheduling. Okay. So the time scheduling also is very important. They consider that before they enroll in this course, especially for foreign students. And then the module is an open module because in our faculty, there are not many courses that's open for foreign students. Okay. This is one of the courses, courses that is being open. Yeah. Because it's taught. It's actually a bilingual, but it leans more towards English. Yeah, it leans more towards English. So when we had like 11 students in the class, foreign students, so it needed to be some sort of like probably 80 to 90% taught in English, only about 10%. Yeah, I have to basically like translate some of the concepts which is in English, where our Malaysian students find it difficult to understand. Yeah. Okay, and then other factors include prior economic knowledge as well as encouragement and also bilingual model. So the next step is basically conducting a regression analysis with final exam marks as a dependent variable. It's very interesting. You look at this. Yeah. English competence emerges with a positive sign over there. Yeah. So basically it indicates that English, yeah, it's very, very important in order for the students to do well in this particular module. Yeah, it's important. Yeah, look at that. It's found to be significant. It's also positive in sign. Yeah, for English. And secondly, we found that gender is another aspect as well. So generally, we say that performance of female students actually much better. But interestingly, both economics as well as mathematics as well as student category turn to be not significant. Yeah, this particular analysis. Yeah. So and then what we did, the next step basically coming up with this Mann-Whitney U test. So the Mann-Whitney U test basically compares the mean. So what we decided to do is we clustered the student into two groups, one Malaysian and exchange. As you can see, the marks that's obtained, yeah, through this Mann-Whitney U test, you can see that even in terms of median, there is a huge difference. Yeah. In terms of median, you can see a huge difference where Malaysian basically perform much better, about 68%, and then 68, and then exchange student about 61.5. Yeah. Okay. So that's one. Okay. The second part of this particular whole paper, I was focusing more on qualitative analysis. So this is this dwells on the entry and exit survey. So in total, we had about 9 questions. Yeah, you can see the question over there. During entry survey and during exit survey, how they basically responded. So during the entry survey, it says explain the contribution of tourism sector to economic development in one Southeast Asian country. So you can basically see that, you know, there is a huge difference, yeah, in the way they basically responded during exit survey. So what we notice is that most of the students at the initial stage or entry survey, they were not able to use this word called inflow of foreign exchange. Yeah, when you say that tourism, inflow of foreign exchange is actually very, very important. Yeah, that's one of the factor why we encourage tourism. So we realized that only during exit survey, they were able to basically highlight this particular point. Yeah, they were able to highlight this particular point during exit survey. Yeah,
Dr. Thiru, you have 5 minutes more.
Yeah, sure. I'm done almost. Yeah. Okay. And then next question, what is meant by investment in human capital? Again, you look at the conclusion at the bottom. So roughly they understood human capital is basically investing in education. But before the class or during the entry survey, they were not able to basically relate to some of these concepts such as higher return, opportunity cost, education, skills and training. They were thinking that like when you say investment is just acquiring education, but it's actually more than that. Yeah. So during the exit survey, after attending the class, they basically were able to, you know, demonstrate that they have understood something, yeah, such as through the usage of these words, yeah, higher return, especially opportunity cost, education, skills and training, and so on and so forth. Yeah. Okay, next one. Then another question that we asked is explain tourism, why female fertility is declining in Southeast Asian countries. So again, you look at the bottom in the exit survey, I say the student implicitly mentioned about Chenery model as parents emphasize quality over quantity children. So this is actually the essence of the whole Chenery model, where initially before entry survey, not many of them were able to basically explain about this Chenery model, but implicitly when during exit survey, they were able to basically highlight this issue. Yeah. Okay. And then finally, the last question I asked, do you feel that the knowledge that you have acquired through this particular module will be beneficial for you in the future? Generally, what we can conclude is that all the students agreed that knowledge gained from this course is crucial in understanding current economic conditions of both Malaysia as well as Southeast Asia. Yeah. Okay. What happened was, while teaching, I realized that, you know, a lot of these foreign students, they were struggling with English, especially those who came from China. You know, so based on the mid-test, so these are the students that I identified for. It's not actually remedial class. Initially, I was identifying them to have a personalized learning. But then I realized that personalized learning wouldn't do any justice to them. The reason being the main hindrance is actually English. So I thought it will be better for me to have an English class. So instead of having a personalized learning, I decided to switch to a personalized English class, where I had about 5 students who were enrolled in that class, mainly Chinese students from China. As you can see, R26, respondent 26, respondent 29, 27, 28, and 30. And generally, these are the students that did not do that well. So in total, I was able to have about 5 English classes. Yeah, you can see from the 2 screenshots that I've given. Yeah, so that we had English class on Fridays. Yeah, for about five weeks. Yeah, so that actually improved their performance in the final exam. Some of the students were not even able to converse, and I realized that through that English class, especially those who came from China, they were at least able to, you know, understand better after this particular English lesson. Yeah. Okay. So conclusion. These are the I've put here about 6 conclusion based on the objective. First, the main challenges enrollee are lack basic economic knowledge as well as poor command of English. So Man-Whitney U-test, we found a statistically significant difference in the achievement of two student category, both Malaysian and exchange. Thirdly, regression analysis result reveals that English competence is actually very important. So I would say that the decision to have that English class is actually a much appropriate decision. The reason being, basically the regression result analysis also suggests the same thing. Yeah, students actually found that the better they are in English, they can actually perform much better in the exam. Factor analysis basically identified three major factors, as highlighted there. Fifthly, the qualitative results from entry-exit survey improved overall understanding of the subject content matter among both the Malaysian and exchange. Finally, even though personalized learning is focused more towards English language learning, the exchange students seems to have benefited greatly. Yeah. So the suggestion, 30 students were enrolled in the module. And as I said, 19 plus 11 came from Japan and China. The main objective of the present study is to test whether there is a significant difference in the achievement of Malaysian as well exchange student. And we found that there is a significant difference in the achievement. We also found that good command of English is imperative to perform well, especially for exchange student. As such, we would strongly encourage that exchange student coming under exchange program be required to have certain standard of English before they are allowed to enroll in any modules. In fact, I would say, yeah. So this is the paper, just a preliminary draft. If you're interested, you can just email you. I can send you a copy of this. Yeah. So thank you. I'm done. Hello.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Thiru. Thank you so much for your presentation. Without further ado, I would like to move to the questions from the evaluator number 1, where the question is, did you give one simple question to the students at the beginning of the study? Either they have prior knowledge in economics or not. Because your research problem mentioned challenges faced due to some students have no prior knowledge, but finding shows that all of them do have prior knowledge, though at different levels. So can you comment on that, Dr. Thiru?
I'm not really able to grasp. I'm just thinking, you know, the question that came up was that they have prior knowledge. I'm not sure, because the regression result basically shows that, you know, the regression result basically turned out to be insignificant. I don't know how do you derive such conclusion from a significant result. Yeah, because in statistics you don't rely on anything that's insignificant. Yeah, so we found that only 2 were significant. One is English. The better the English command is, then they perform better. And then second one is gender factor. Yeah. So economics, whether they have economics or not, it's not really matter for this particular module. Probably the reason being it's slightly diluted compared to the one which is offered in econs faculty. Yeah, so slightly diluted. Probably that is the reason. I have to do that. The reason being knowing that the student don't have a background. Yeah, but of course, coming back to that question, the question that I asked actually designed based on our learning outcome. Yeah. All the questions, both for entry as well as entry survey, exit survey. So it's actually designed based on the learning outcome. So I just used my learning outcome as my guiding principle to design that exit survey as well as entry survey. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Dr. Thiru, thank you so much. So basically, the interventions that you gave for the class is basically you gave them the extra English lessons, isn't it?
Yeah.
But only to the foreign students, not to the local students.
Yeah, because, you know, Malaysian basically had 2 options. Either if they are not good in English, they can always come and ask me in Malay language. And I tend to use, you know, a bit, you know, when I look like kind of blurry face on them, then immediately I knew that the student couldn't understand. I would like to re-explain the whole thing in Malay.
Right.
So I have to all the international student on the whole. I'll say, let me explain to my student first, because my priority is always my student, Malaysian student. So I'll explain to them. Yeah. So I give. So they got the advantage of 2 languages. Yeah, English and Malay.
Yes.
Whereas international student, you know, they only got the advantage of one language. They just got,
Yeah.
you know. So I thought that, you know, the best way to basically address this particular issue or this particular problem is basically give them an English lesson. But if you look at the results over here, I can show you this. Yeah, the students. So generally, exchange student mid-test mark R26 only got 40. Yeah.
Wow.
And final exam went out to 6. You look at 29 R29 from 5th push to 60. So I thought this is actually a good this thing. Yeah, even R28 exchange student, even though that student wasn't actually required to come for that any kind of additional learning, but still that student performed better. So I personally feel that it is because of that English lesson, because once you don't have a good command of English, you're going to have even problem to express yourself in the exam, because the questions were all essay questions. Yeah, you can't write. Yeah, they are good with numbers, but when it comes to expressing themselves, you need to have certain command of English in order to express yourself. Yeah.
Okay. So which means that the English class that you actually conducted are for free, isn't it? So it is actually your extra time by doing that.
Yes.
I'm all inspired
all
with that,
practice
Dr.
for 2
Thiru.
hours. Yeah.
Very inspired.
So
with
what
that.
I will do is I had one master student who's also actually my middleman. So things that they don't understand in English, so I'll ask him to translate. His name is Martin. So he's doing his research dissertation under me. I say, Martin, you help them, you translate to them. So that's how the class was run. So Martin was with me for the entire 5 weeks of the lesson, yeah, during the English class. So I thought, okay, give them something extra. At least they will remember me when they go back to China.
Yeah, but whatever it is, Dr. Thiru, I think we all should learn from that. You know, putting the understanding for the students at as one of our main purpose.
Yeah.
Be it to do extra. For free and everything. Well, I'm really already inspired with your approach. And thank you so much, Dr. Thiru, for your presentation and for presenting in LITEC. So I will say all the best and hope that you can continue with that work. Yeah, Dr. Thiru? That's really inspiring.
All
right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. So we're going to move to our fourth presenter today, B12, Dr. Mohamed Iskandar Rahmad. With the title of Personalizations of University Students Learning Through Collaborative Outreach Program Between National Schools and Public Universities. So let's hear from Mohamed Iskandar and see what he has to present in LITEC conference today. Thank you. I'll leave the sessions to you.
All right, thank you so much. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so I'm gonna just choose my slide. Can you see the slide?
Yep, we can see
All
your
right.
slide.
So I can start right now. Let me just set my own time. Hang on. Well, I can't see my own face. Okay, hang on. Okay. All right, so my title for this grant given to me by EDEC is actually Personalization of University Students Learning Through Collaborative Outreach Program Between National Schools and Public University. So basically, it is a project which I have done in the past, but I'm trying to make it like a related theme with what EDEC is offering with the grant. So I'm doing this with my friend, a friend of mine in the same language unit, Faculty of Languages and Linguistics, and yep, I'm going to go on right now. So to begin with, the language unit, my unit, we have introduced GLT 1015, which is Advanced Professional Writing course to enhance Band 5 students in their formal education and formal document writing. So this course actually fulfilled the 4 dimensions of personalized learning as described by Jones and Wolking, not dated. And they actually mentioned about these 4 dimensions, which are flexible content and tools, targeted instruction, student reflection and ownership, as well as data-driven decision. So I'll explain to you how we were able to implement this. But then again, my point is not about just showing you what we have done with the GLT 1015 course, but I'm actually trying to make it a little different, as you can see here, collaborative outreach program. So we are not doing the course as per se, but we are doing a collaborative with outside school, national schools. All right, these are the 4 core elements of personalized learning, which I think some of you have probably already stumbled upon. So I'm not going to explain that too much. The personalization of learning that we have done in GLT 1015 is basically students are not given the task of simply executing a bogus or imaginary proposal and activities, but they have to do it for real. So in the past, what we have done is we ask students to come up with proposals and activity to be done in UM campus. All right, so they can do activity among their own, activity with their friends in their college, in their faculties, but this normally consists of very few students, probably around 20 to 30 participants only. So we are thinking more, we are thinking bigger. So we ask them to go to schools, all right, and they were able to engage with more students, more pupils. We call pupils in primary schools. So different tasks are assigned to each student, where some people can be the leader, some students can become the final editor, the designer, I mean, there's so many kinds of tasks that could be assigned to every student. So the collaboration with the national school is actually something that they also needed. I mean, the national schools need to conduct outreach program with external entities, so we can become the external entities for them. All right. So actual permission letter is supposed to be given to the school. So this is one of the kind of assignment that the GLT 1015 students have to do, where they have to actually write real letter to the school, and they will receive real reply back from the school. And the proposal of activity to be conducted with pupils have to be sent out not just to me, where I can mark, but also to the teacher handling the program on the other side in the school. And they have to execute the activity in the school, and they have to come up with a report about their activity, and they present their report, and as well as a reflection of their own individual reflection of how they felt regarding the whole program, the whole activity. So the problem statement that we had, teaching and learning have always been generalized, be it in the planning, execution, assessments, and even sometimes in the facilitation. So such method is inappropriate because every single student is unique and require different treatment. So we are doing personalization of students' learning. Means that when we ask them to go to groups, we group them. We group them around 4 to 5 persons in the group. So every single individual in that group can actually flourish by, how do I explain this? Everybody have their own strengths and weaknesses, so they can accommodate everybody's strengths and weaknesses directly in one activity. And because of that, we need to find out the level of personalized learning that we are able to offer in GLT 1015, which we have come up with a set of questionnaire. And we also need to find out whether this outreach program increased personalization of learning among the students. We need to find out whether it actually helped or it did not. So these are the 3 research questions that we have come up with. What are the students' perceptions on personalized learning? And are there any significant difference between the students who participated in the outreach program and those who did not in terms of self-directed learning readiness, learning outcome, learning environment, student engagement, individualized assessment, academic efficacy, and well-being? So we are wondering why I'm having all these 6 variables. I'm going to explain to you later. All right, the null hypothesis is that there are significant differences. We expect significant differences where those who participated in the outreach program should perceive more personalized learning. They should, right? But we have to wait for the result later. And are there any significant differences between male and female? So I'm also doing something regarding gender in terms of self-directed learning, readiness, learning environment, student engagement, individualized assessment, academic efficacy, and well-being. And the null hypothesis here is there is no significant difference between male and female. We do not expect any difference between the 2 genders. So this is the conceptual framework that we have come out from Waldrip 2014. Right, we have decided to adapt from, actually it wasn't at all. We decided to adapt from them the 6 variables, the one that you can see from the research question here. All right, so the self-directed learning readiness, the learning environment, the student engagement, the individualized assessment, academic efficacy, and well-being. So actually there are more to this, but I'm not going to explain every single one. If you want to, probably you can send to me an email and I shall explain to you more about it, or maybe you can read my paper later. All right, and the first one is the self-directed learning readiness. What it is meant is actually students are supposed to have capacity to conduct own education, should have desire for improved learning, and can focus on learning through setting and achieving goals. So we need them to acquire this. And the second one is the learning environment. It is expected that teachers should help students, teachers should relate out-of-school experiences to students. Students are invited to share with the teacher control of their learning environment. So they need some control. They need to be related with what we are doing as a teacher. And students explain to others about their ideas. For the third one, student engagement. Students are emotionally engaged in the thinking process. They are supposed to actively engage in the thinking process and involved in the teaching and academic activities. So we are trying to engage them into all these items. Individualized assessment is the fourth variable, whereby we are more or less talking about assessments over here, whereby the students perceive that assessments are supposed to be aligned with the goals of the learning program. Assessments should feature real-life situations. Students are informed about the forms of assessment and the purposes of assessment tasks are well defined. So we have to explain the kind of assessment that they will encounter in the beginning of the program. Academic efficacy is the fifth one. Students believe that they are competent to do classwork, or they should have perceived this. And the well-being. Students perceive positive perception from others, report positive feelings, do not support disruptive behavior, perceive they have differentiated learning opportunities, and perceive that they can receive professional support. So these are the well-being that they expect from personalized learning. So some literature for you all here. So personalized learning is a potential approach to meeting future educational needs and may provide new alternatives that foster learning capacity among individual learners, according to Bentley and Miller 2004. So this study is to serve to increase employability capabilities among university students by letting them personalize their learning experience at their own pace and to the optimum abilities, with the lecturer to continuously support and guide them individually. And according to Argot and Myron Spector, one of the most obvious source of individual learning is the accumulation of experience. So this is what we are trying to do with the outreach program experience, and the articulation and codification of experience with a task allow better understanding of the task itself, which should in turn lead to a better performance. All right, this is a timeline that we have done for the first semester of 2019-2020. The task here first one that we did was we briefed them 4 classes, not really 4 classes, 4 classes who have to do the outreach program and 4 classes who do not have to do the outreach program. We actually compared. And we did grouping of students, 5 per group in the class. And normally one class would consist of 25 students. So that is why we actually have about 100 students who had actually gone through for the outreach program. And they divided the tasks on their own and personalization according to their interests of what they are good at. Confirmation of participating school by the class teacher I mean, there are a few schools that they had to go to. Students' discussion about the type of project to be implemented in school, correspondences from student group to the school, proposal, development of promotional and project materials. So they have to do a lot of things in order for them to excel for this course. Implementation of project in the school, submission of good report, submission of individual reflection, and we distributed the questionnaire later to them on week 14, and we did the data entry analysis later after that. So these are a few pictures that I would like to share to you about what had been done in the school. So you can see here that the students are actually quite proactive, whereby they even created a big snake ladder, you know, and very engaged with the pupils in the school. And yep, maybe you can just have a look at the pictures over here. And in terms of their assessments, they also did something very different from the normal assignment interface. You see, because as a teacher, I have given them the freedom to personalize their own assignment, so they managed to make it more interesting rather than having a normal, normal font, normal spacing, normal coloring, and all. They were able to come up with something different. So for the methodology, 200 questionnaires were distributed to Mohd Band 5 undergraduates who are taking GLT 1015, and we did a purposive sampling because we had to choose 8 classes. So 100 participated in the outreach program, and another 100 did not participate because we wanted to see the difference between the two. And there were 2 sections in the questionnaire, whereby the first section is about the demographic, and the second section is adapted from the personalized learning environment questionnaire by Waldrip et al. 2014. So there were 66 questions altogether. So the results. Students' perception on personalized learning. So I'm going to explain to you about their perception in terms of mean analysis. So I will give you, I'm not going to really give you mean numbers, but I will actually just show you whether it's very low, intermediate, or high. I'll just do it directly over there because I don't really like to put on numbers over here. I wanted you to be able to understand it better. And at the same time, I will also show in the table the results of the t-test to compare between those who participated and those who did not participate. All right, so for the first variable, which can be divided into 3 items, the 3 sub-variables, self-management, desire for learning, and self-control, you can see that I've given you the total of N200 all respondent result compared with the normal class, and this one is the N100 and another N100. So normal class and the class with RH program, they do not show any difference between the two or overall. But for the learning environment, interestingly, teacher support is lesser perceived for the class with outreach program, which means that they were a bit insecure. And the t-test also shows significant difference between the two. I also show you the mean numbers so that you can see the difference, which is not that much, but still a significant difference. In terms of the student engagement, they are also no different. In terms of the individualized assessment, this is where the differences are actually a lot, whereby all 4 sub-variables showed significant difference between the normal class and the class which did the outreach program. And you can see here that all the classes which were actually undergone the outreach program had lesser perception compared to the normal class, which means that probably because we asked them to go to the school, and at the end of the day, we asked them to write reports. So none of the things that they had to do in the school were assessed. So I would say that probably in the next time, if we want to do personalized learning, we need to also assess what is being done in the school, not just the paper products. So the next one is the academic efficacy. Sorry, a bit dry. Right, over here is also not quite different, but quite significant in terms of the difference, whereby the normal class and the class with outreach program had some differences, okay, between the two. And in terms of the well-being, all the classes with the outreach program had 2 significant differences over here, whereby they believe that when they did the outreach program, they had lesser peer relationship compared to the students who did it in the normal class. And the opportunity for social and personal behavior is also significantly different. Right, the next finding is the gender influence towards personalized learning, whereby I have collected around 97 male and 103 female. Luckily, it's quite even. And similarly, I'm going to explain to you about the mean analysis, very low, low, intermediate, and high, and also the t-test number. Yep. So for the first variable, you can see here that female has less desire for learning and less self-control compared to male when we are talking about the outreach program. I mean, for the personalized learning. So you will also prove here that women don't really like to be personal, they like to be guided more. For the learning environment, there's no difference between the two. For the student engagement, cognitively, male perceive higher than female in terms of personalized learning. They like it more. And no difference in terms of the assessment, and in terms of the academic efficacy, there is some difference between the two, whereby I'll explain to you in the findings later. And in terms of the well-being,
Mr. Iskandar, you have another 5 minutes more.
Yeah, I'm aware. Thank you. And in terms of the well-being, only one sub-variable is affected here, whereby there is one significant difference between male and female, and male perceive that they have more opportunity for social and personal behavior compared to female when it's related to personalized learning. So the findings here stated that positive perceptions from students showing high and intermediate level means for all variables. So generally they are quite positive in terms of their perceptions in terms of personalized learning, whether it is outreach program or not outreach program, normal class, they are positive because they showed high and intermediate level of means. But the first null hypothesis was rejected because although there are significant differences, but it is a bit inverted, because initially we thought that when given the chance to go for outreach program, we thought that students will perceive more. But then again, it was a bit inverted, whereby they perceive less compared to the normal class students. So I would say that if we were to do an outreach program, we need to guide more. And probably we also have to provide some kind of assessments in terms of their activity in the school or outside of the school, outside of the university compound. And the second null hypothesis was partly rejected because there are significant differences between male and female, although we thought initially they're not supposed to be any. And in the conclusion, between students who join the outreach program, they need more support from teacher, they need clearer assessment guidelines, they need competence in doing their tasks, they need better peer relationship, and they need more social opportunities. So if we were to do an outreach program in the future, we need to improve all these items, which is a bit less perceived compared to the students who did normal class. So these are the things that we need to take into account. For the gender t-test findings, female need more desire for learning, self-control, cognitive ability, competence, and more social opportunities. So we need to also consider gender when we are doing future recommendation for outreach program when it comes to GLT 1015. So our recommendation would be, for the continuation of study, we would like to compare between the obtained data with what data that we had right now with upcoming semester where we are doing it online. So we can still do online activity with school students, school pupils, by having online activities, and should offer more opportunities for students to engage in outreach program. But then again, we need to provide clearer and more instructions. Consider assessing the performance during outreach program, not just paper-based production or tasks, which is quite clear here. And consider gender differences. And I will also say that qualitative data is needed to determine individual needs, because we actually collected qualitative data, but we cannot explain it today because for the 20 minutes given to us, we're not able to. But we had feedback, we had individual reflections from students, so there were some other data that we already collected. So thank you for listening, and that's all from me. I'm done.
Thank you, Iskandar. That's very interesting to see that you involve your students with the outreach program at the schools, and I think I really like that idea. But I have one question because nowadays it's that we have this COVID-19 pandemic issues, which means that we have to limit our face-to-face activities. Like what you have actually done with the students. So what is your plan for the next, for your next classes, in order for you to have this kind of activities of outreach program?
Actually, I already did it in last semester too. I asked students to come up with IEG.
Okay.
Even for the COVID-19, they came up with the IEG Instagram page, and they were able to provide some awareness for the COVID-19, for example.
All right.
Yeah,
okay.
And some did some awareness on women's rights.
Oh, women's rights. Okay.
They also did that. So by online, they were able to do some kind of social, society contributions.
And
still relate with their assessments.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Iskandar. That's very nice, and I like that's very creative of you. And thank you so much for your presentation. And all right, see you. Bye.
See you. Bye.
Okay. So we're going to move to the next presenter, B13, Dr. Phan Chia Wei, with the title of "To Make Studying Pharmacotherapy Less Intimidating Towards Differentiated and Personalized Learning in Pharmacy Education." I would like to just leave this session to you, Dr. Phan.
Yeah, thank you. I'd just like to share my slides. So just testing, are you able to see my slides?
Yes, we can see your slide, Dr. Phan.
All right. Okay, so can I start?
Yes, but before that, I would just like to remind you, because in order for me to remind about your timing, to control your timing. So can you hear this?
Yes,
can you hear that?
I can.
Okay,
yeah.
So if I put it once, it will be 10 more minutes. And if the ring is twice, that means that you have another 5 more minutes. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Phan.
Yeah.
All right.
So just to make sure that you are not seeing my presenter's viewer, you are only seeing the slides.
Yes, we only see the slides.
Okay. So let me start. All right. So thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, everyone. And I'm Dr. Phan from the Department of Pharmaceutical Life Sciences, Faculty of Pharmacy, and I'm here to present our project on how to make studying pharmacotherapy less intimidating among pharmacy undergraduates by using differentiated and personalized learning. Okay, so let me introduce my team. We have Puan Shirin and Puan Nora Shikin. So both of them are pharmacists. So they are from the Department of Clinical Pharmacy and Pharmacy Practice, whereby I'm actually from the Department of Pharmaceutical Life Sciences. So for your information, our faculty is the youngest faculty in UM, and we were previously part of Faculty of Medicine. So what is pharmacotherapy? So pharmacotherapy is basically the treatment by using pharmaceutical drugs. So in pharmacotherapy courses, pharmacy students are supposed to learn the first component, which is the pharmacology, whereby they learn about the science of the drugs, which include their mechanism of action, indication, routes of administration, elimination, excretion, indication, and a lot of things, including contraindications. So then the second part, after learning about the pharmacology theoretical knowledge, they will then learn about the clinical management and pharmacy practice, because each individual patient will need different types of drug regimen and different types of drug treatment. Okay. So in UM pharmacy program, we have about 20% of pharmacotherapy related modules. So starting from year 1 itself, So year 1, we have pharmacotherapy for EENT and hematological disorders. And then moving on to year 2, they have pharmacotherapy for infectious diseases, whereby we divide it into 2 blocks. So they learn about all the drugs on antibiotics, antiviral agents, antifungal, antiparasitic drugs, and so on. Then moving on to year 3, so there will be more on the neurological disorders, psychiatric disorder, cancer, pain. And year 4, they will be going for attachment, but there's only one pharmacotherapy courses left, which is pharmacotherapy for special population, whereby I as the coordinator, and I believe it is the perfect module to be used as a case study in this particular project. So here are the problem statements. So often we hear pharmacy students complain about pharmacotherapy courses. They are generally overwhelmed by the large number of drugs to be learned during the entire pharmacy undergraduate training. So pharmacy students always find studying pharmacotherapy intimidating and terrifying. So they have raised their concerns in C-test. So we feel that there is a need to strengthen pharmacotherapy courses in pharmacy undergraduate education, not just but probably that it can be extended to the Malaysian pharmacy program, as many students face difficulties in implementing the theoretical knowledge into practice later on during their career. So all in all, we feel that there's a lack of differentiated and personalized teaching and facilitation to meet students' diverse learning styles in terms of pharmacy education in So the primary research question is that how are we going to tackle these sort of problems? So first by asking how to make pharmacotherapy oriented subject less intimidating. So people, we can't help but we always are often intimidating without realizing it, but sometimes it is just us. So perhaps the intimidating nature of certain causes merely is just a consequence of unconscious bias and stereotype. So this we are going to address that. And to answer the research questions, we take on the approach of personalization. So even Starbucks, so when they serve the customer, they also do the personalizing marketing. So they give you the name. I mean, like they spelled it wrongly, so it has to be it's supposed to be Adam, but then they say Adam. But regardless of that, so there's a personal touch on this. So we take on the approach of personalization, which is also the theme of this year LITEC grant. So personalization means the practices that tailor the pace and focus of instruction to address the needs and goals of each individual student. So bear in mind that the learning needs of each student may be different, and the individual students will have different pace and they will have their own academic progress. So students will lose confidence when they compare grades among them, and this could lead to depression for certain slower paced students. So apparently students come with different ways of learning, while we teachers will have a specific way of delivering our lecture, and we always think that it is the students who adapt to the teaching style rather than the teacher adapts to the learning style, whereby we are going to correct that and we move away from that, because this tends to create a teacher-centered learning instead of student-centered learning, whereby we favor the later one. So we believe that by incorporating learning styles to teaching and learning will become interactive, collaborative, and engaging. So the traditional form of teaching where teachers give information and the students at the end receive will no longer exist, since the role of teacher now has become more on facilitation and as a guide that leads students to what concept needs to be learned, and it is the students who will work hard to attain the desired goal of the subject matter. So for this entire project, we will employ the Howard-Gardner multiple intelligence theory that says the extent to which students possess different kinds of minds and therefore learn, remember, perform, and understand in different ways. So I will not go into detail the multiple intelligence, which I will be elaborating more next. So let me take a module which is integrated pharmacotherapy as an example of our first move to make a shift towards personalizing teaching and learning. So this is actually the old module. It's called Integrated Pharmacotherapy with the old code that capture pharmacotherapy of all sorts of diseases from a particular special populations. So they capture the pharmacotherapy of Alzheimer's disease, for example, Parkinson's disease, dementia, and a lot more. And we find that the course design itself is very undifferentiated and broad, and it is very disease focused, whereby it puts the pharmacotherapy first and then the people later on. Next, we design. We feel that a new personalized course content is more favorable. Therefore, we customize the course into a different population. Then we have male and female, geriatric, older population, pregnant women, neonates, children, and so on. With this, then the course itself will be more differentiated and focused, and we will put people first and then the pharmacotherapy. In this way, it is less terrifying, I guess. So this is the course that I'm coordinating, pharmacotherapy for special population. So this is the approach that we are going to use. No, we have done this to the pilot test of this case study. So we feel that a differentiated instruction should complement and should supply to the personalized learning environment. So we lecturers have discussed and we come up with the ABC approach. So A is assess as you go. Personalized learning is that the students must go according to their space. So we do not wait until the final assessment. So we assess as you go. So we have small tests, we have quizzes along the way, and we fully utilize full force on spectrum. Okay. So bite-sized teaching, whereby the B is that we do not give the students the apple, but we give them a bite size. Okay, we provide information in bite-sized chunk. We focus just on one or two key objectives. All right. So we always go back to the outcome-based learning. So do not teach more than that, and focus on maybe 1 to 3 key objectives and learning outcome. And stay connected is that we will ensure that the students' problems can be attended to as soon as possible, and they feel free to get back to the lecturers. So all in all, we have a clear aim now is to pilot test a differentiated and personalized approach to deliver the content of this OIA 4010 module, and with the specific objectives. First is to assess the Howard Gardner multiple intelligence of the final year B Pharm students. Okay, and then to assess and monitor the new module with the implementation of differentiated teaching methods, namely the A, the B, C approach. And then the third, to evaluate and compare the perception and effectiveness of this approach among the students and also among the teachers. The teachers means the coordinator, me, myself, and also the lecturers who are co-teaching this module. So let's do it. So I'm just going to flash you these slides on the timeline and the flowchart of our project. And these are some of the activities that they do. So this is the 20% of assignment, whereby they use Screencast-O-Matic to create a video, which is about 8 minutes long video. And we group them according to their different multiple intelligences. Okay. Just for your information, this Screencast-O-Matic application is a free software, and we think that this assignment will provide an in-depth learning where the students of different intelligences can get together and they will get a totally engaged, since each member needs to play a part for their presentation to be more successful. In a way, their critical thinking skills will be developed for this. So for this particular group 13, their topics is actually BHP, and they comprise of group member of visual intelligence, interpersonal intelligence, logical intelligence, and also intrapersonal intelligence. So 12 minutes past, huh? All right, okay. Then we used a Padlet, which is an interactive e-learning tool. So we asked the students to paste their work on the wall so that the peers can actually evaluate and admire each other's work. And then also remember the A, assess as you go. So we use Mentimeter to collect feedback from the students. So once a while. And with Spectrum, we post case studies, tutorials, and even quizzes to Spectrum, so that the students can learn at their own pace at home. And also we use Quizlet and also certain types of gamification to create a collaborative learning environment. So these are the students working together to solve a certain tutorial, so certain puzzles. So here's the findings. Okay, so probably I will just go a bit slower. So this is the overall class in multiple intelligence, whereby we found that the most dominant being intrapersonal, with a total mapping or total score of 291. And so imagine one students, they have multiple intelligences. So some of them they score negative. Doesn't mean that they are unintelligent, but just they do not possess that kind of intelligence. So intrapersonal is the most dominant one among all the students in this particular final year. And second being logical, and third being spatial visual. So noteworthy, linguistic and language is with negative 96, and musical is negative 18. So if we were to zoom into individualization, so a total of 59 students, 48 of them will have one dominant highest multiple intelligence. And out of the 48, so 18 of them are of intrapersonal intelligence. Means that their learning style and their strength is on self-reflections. They know that they are aware of their emotion, they are aware of their emotion, and also they always do a lot of self-reflection. And then 7 of them have two combination of highest multi-intelligence, and 4 of them has 3 different combination of highest multiple intelligence. Okay, so this is the demographic of what we call the customer avatar of the entire class. So for the screencast-o-matic video assignment, so all of them scored A to B, with 24 scoring A, 9 scoring A minus, and 22 scoring B plus, and 4 B. So bear in mind that this is a project-based kind of project-based kind of assignment, whereby with the grouping of 4 of them, but they are scored individually, both peer-reviewed and lecturer-reviewed. So yeah, so 18 of the intrapersonal intelligence actually score an A here. Okay, intrapersonal multiple intelligence. Okay, so the overall grade. So this graph shows you the overall grade obtained after the class has attended the final exam. So this module is of 60% of written final exam, which is individual, 60% written, and 40% of continuous assessment. The 40% comprised of the 20% of the video assignment, just which I have shown you a moment ago, and 20% of assess as you go kind of small test. Okay, so we observed a different trend here as compared to the previous slide, with students getting B minus and C plus here in overall grade, which is understandable, okay, given that this is an individual final exam with 60% for write on the paper and pen kind of written exam. But basically, all the students have improved judging from the small test and the final 60% component, whereby the data is not shown here. But I would like to highlight here that there's one particular A student, and the A student falls under the visual domain of multiple intelligence. So this makes us sort of like analyze the learning analytics. The learning analytics simply means that the analysis of student behavior and success based on the logs in the spectrums. So if you will go to our own house in-house Moodle spectrum, you can see under the report, under the course, under reports, and you can go to the logs. So there are a lot of information there. It's almost like a big data, but I'm going to show you these 2 variables, which is the overall grade and also the total number of logs in spectrum. The total number of logs simply means that the number of time the students log into the spectrum and do something. For example, they view the assignment, they view the course, they post something in the forum, they view the forum, they view the glossary, they view the questionnaire, they attempted the quiz, anything. So we found out that there is a positive correlation, positive but weak, yet significant correlation between the final grades and also total number of logs in spectrum. So the one that I boxed here actually is one particular student who has a total number of logs achieved 359 times, which is the maximum number of logs in spectrum. And this particular student is the one, the high achiever, she actually is the only one that scored A with 4 pointer here. So it does say something here, you see. It does mean that the more you use spectrum, the higher grade you will get. Okay, but this is just a hypothesis whereby we need more in-depth analysis lah. So, but for this particular case, we do see that kind of trend. Okay, so with minimum of 28 logs in the spectrum, this is a bit kind of unacceptable, and the grade is actually not so high lah. Okay, so we did a post-study survey, and 100% of the participants agree to the statement that realizing my own MI and the group members' MI can help improve other weaker areas. So one interesting point is that the particular student is also a leader in the group, and they are of the intrapersonal intelligence. And the particular student says that I am intrapersonal intelligence, and I think it helps me to be a better group leader, since any leaders must understand their feelings in order to make better decisions. So their feelings towards this MI actually go beyond achieving good grades, but in terms of self-discovery and to be a better self of themselves actually. So I have a few minutes more. So these studies come with limitation. As much as we would like to celebrate the diversity of learners and provide the students with opportunities to utilize the various types of intelligence, it is not easy to differentiate teaching for certain pharmacy courses. So now we only tackle about 20% of pharmacotherapy courses, but how about pharmaceutical technology courses whereby there needs a lot of application and hands-on experience? So that might be a limitation and problem arising from there. So for the conclusion, we think that integration of learning styles and multiple intelligence theory do enhance the strengths of learners that will help them develop their self-efficacy. Okay, to develop their self-efficacy, because each of them come with different personal goal, and not all of them wants to score high. Okay, and not all of them come with the mindset that I want to score high, but at least develop their self-efficacy. And there's a need for best practice and full support from the faculty and also from institution to involve a whole new paradigm which can address and accommodate multi-modality and multi-style of teaching. Perhaps to share my thoughts on some certain research questions that derive from this study is that we have to think about how to encourage students to use their preferred intelligence in learning, and how to design instructional activities that should appeal to different forms of intelligence. And thirdly, maybe is to how the lecturers, the educators formulate assessment of learning that measures multiple forms of intelligence. So that is the questions that I posed after carrying out this study. All right, so that's the end of my presentation. I would like to thank LITEC for funding this project. I would like to thank the entire staff of Faculty of Pharmacy, and of course the class of 2016 of Pharmacy B Pharm program. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Phan. That's a very nice presentation, and I really like when the fact that you did compare the spectrum login numbers with the grade level of the students. Yes, like you said, it's still early to determine that there's a significant relationship. I mean, there is a significant relationship, but a very weak relationship, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's really interesting when you said that this particular students log in 358 times.
59. Yes.
359 times.
Mm.
How many times did she log in per week? So which means that she,
So that is a very interesting question. So learning analytics, actually we can zoom into like how many the weekly basis, how many like 359 times. What is the frequency weekly, and is it evenly distributed throughout the one semester, or is last minutes towards the exam? So we do not know that. So we have to find out. That's why I said learning analytics is a very much interesting area to study the student behavior, because we have a very big data that we can analyze and study about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And why do you choose multiple intelligence? For your study.
All right. The multiple intelligence, I first encountered it when I was actually teaching in UCSI, because my first teaching job is actually not in UN but in UCSI. So we had, and just for a bit of sharing, so we had 1 week extensive teacher training, and the first topic that they teach us is to find out the multiple intelligence, not by other means but by Howard Gardner's methods, to study the demographic of your class. So you need to know your customers' data. You need to know each and every one of them. That's why it is actually this cohort I first taught them during year 2 when I was teaching in pharmacotherapy for infectious disease. In fact, at that time, I already give them these multiple intelligences. And when I give them again in year 4, this data is not shown, but the multiple intelligence actually do match. I would say like 80 to 90% of them match 2 years ago when they were actually in year 2 for the same cohort. Yeah.
Okay, that's very interesting actually.
Yes.
I think now I'm inspired, and I think I might use multiple intelligence for my class. That's fun. Thank you so much for that.
There's a template for it, which is 102 questions.
Oh, there's 102 questions.
Yeah, there's 102 questions. Yes.
Okay. So normally, when do you ask the students to do this? At the beginning of the class?
Yeah, at the beginning of the class.
The first day.
The first day. Yeah. So because I think that this module is perfect timing for me to do this, because I am the coordinator. So I will be doing the introduction to the course, whereby I will be going to the class first. So I think this is the perfect course for me to conduct this project.
Right. That's very good. Perhaps if you have more questions, we can actually go to you.
Yes.
About multiple intelligence. Yeah.
Yes.
We do have some multiple intelligence as well. Yesterday presentations.
Yes. I am aware.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you, Dr. Phan. Thank you so much for your presentation. I'm really glad that you're here in LITEC 2020.
Yes, I'm glad also. Yeah, EDEC is always be the faculty's best friend actually.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Phan. All right.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, we're going to go to our last presenter for today, B14. Okay, technical problem. All right. We're going to go with our next presenter, B14, Mr. Mohamed Hilmi Jaafar, with the title Object-Assisted Learning to Enhance Autonomous Learning in Higher Education. Mr. Hilmi, I will leave the sessions to you. Thank you so much.
Okay, Assalamualaikum and good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you very clearly, Mr. Hilmi.
You can see my presentation? My screen?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Can't see your, Encik Hilmi, mungkin you can try to stop sharing and then start sharing again. Sometimes you have to do...
Yeah, okay. I have stopped sharing. Okay. Okay.
Alright. Okay, now we can see your screen.
Okay, so...
And yeah, you can minimize the box, the speaker box. That one? Yeah, alright.
Okay, you see my full screen or what? My full screen.
Not full screen. I can see your Microsoft PowerPoint.
Okay, it's okay, it's all right.
All right.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Actually, I would like to thank EDEC for giving us this opportunity, and also I would like to thank them. I would like to apologize because this research has not been completed. Okay, we have failed to complete this research for a number of reasons. Okay, but that's no excuse. Okay, but later I'll explain. Yeah. So I have wrote to the EDEC director to be excused from this presentation, but she said we have to present. So and asked me to regard this as a idea sharing session. Okay, as idea sharing session. I want to be frank with all the audience here. So I have nothing to present actually. We have no result. We have very little result actually, because this research is cut short by a few reasons. One of the reasons is the dwindling number of participants because of the timing, and then of course aggravated by COVID-19. And also the timing of the grant award also did not help, because in September actually we have almost finished our first semester, so it's quite short to conduct this research actually. So but since this is not just a sharing session, I will not conduct this as a presentation in a conventional manner, like we present our research papers. Just to share a few things, the idea of this research actually. Okay, so this is the outline of my presentation. Okay, of course I will introduce to you our ideas, and then objective of this research, the methods, and the result, whatever result that we have. Okay, so actually the idea we wanted to conduct this research for quite a long time, with or without EDEC fund actually, because we keep hearing complaints from our peer in faculty, complain about our products. They say our students in faculty, they do not have this critical thinking, analytical thinking, communication skill, and so on. So of course, because we are conducting a bridging course here, it's a pre-U course. So our product is exported to faculties. We hear especially from medical faculty saying that our students is not that analytical in their thinking. So actually, what was the problem? Okay, what's the problem? Okay, this critical thinking is not something new in Malaysia. In fact, it has been, we heard about this since 1989 when the ministry introduced KBSM, and years later our IPTAs has adopted a soft skill module in their courses. But we keep hearing complaints, especially the employers complain that our graduates are not employable because they lack critical thinking skill, communication skill, and we are hearing complaints from our peer in faculty. So we have decided to conduct this study. So since EDEC has the platform, so we thought that why not we just apply for EDEC grants. Okay, so what is the root cause of this lack of perceived lack of critical thinking among our students? Our student actually, because our student, as my friends say, they have the knowledge. Okay, they have all the necessary knowledge. They have the tools, but this knowledge are so fractious in their mind. Means those knowledge are not coherent in their minds, that they cannot use them to solve problem. Of course, in critical thinking, they have to interpret, they have to analyze, reasoning, and ultimately they have to solve problem. But our students are very lacking in this problem-solving skill. They have the necessary tool, yet they cannot solve the problem. Okay, so we thought that why is that? Because we thought that because they cannot actually they are not trained. They are not trained to be a thinking person. Okay, because of the syllabus in school, the teaching method in school, and also here in PASUM, in Pusat Asasi, we are still practicing some kind of rote learning, because we have a lot of syllabus, a lot of content to cover. We have to cover all the syllabus in very short time, in 10 months. So it is a content-centered teaching and learning. Actually, it's not what we call, it's not really to educate students to think. Okay, so so what is the key? What is the key to solve this problem? Okay, that we thought that problem-based learning is the key. Okay, so we want to try this problem-based learning instead of the conventional learning in PASUM. So this problem, why? Because this problem-based learning encourage student participation. Okay, and then they have more freedom to explore, and then they can ask a lot of questions among them, and so on. So we take this problem-based learning as the mainstay of this research. So what we did is that we select some weak students based on their mid-semester exam, based on their result. So we select about 50 students as the participant of this research. Okay. The objective is this research actually is to study the effect of independent learning, because in this research we just let them learn with a very minimum supervision, and then to analyze the student progress in terms of actual test result. Actually, we have we want to conduct our own test, and also we want to see whether they can progress based on their final exam result, but which is in April. Okay, then to formulate, because actually we conduct this curriculum review every 3 years, but we think that this curriculum review has to go what we call paradigm shift from the content-centered learning to problem-based learning. But of course this needs some autonomy, because PASUM is not really autonomous. It's not like UM. UM is autonomous, but we are still controlled by the ministry. Okay, but of course we have to try. We have to try and show some result in case we want to promote this problem-based learning to the ministry. Okay, so we out of the research, we hope that we can formulate a hybrid learning method that we can propose as another mainstay of learning, teaching and learning at bridging level, at pre-U levels. Okay, so what we conduct is that we select a few students, about 50 students. We conduct background studies on them. We just through questionnaires, we ask them a few questions, and then we provide them with a set of problem, the module sets of problem, and some tools to solve those problems, such as computer application, diagrams, models, picture, maps, and so on. Okay, and then they are led to work in group to discuss and solve problem under a minimum supervision. Means we have our staff there just to supervise and just to intervene when he or she saw any if the student leads to a wrong direction. But basically they are just keep quiet and let the student do their job, and then their progress are meant to be monitored, because we have no chance to monitor the progress. Actually, the progress are meant to be monitored through the subsequent test and their final exam. So, but we unfortunately we do not have those result for the test, because we don't have the time to conduct those tests, and then the final exam is in April, and of course it was hampered by COVID-19. But from our background study, 68%, we found that 68% participants are from rural area, 25% are from suburban area, and 7% from urban area. Out of those participants, out of those 50 participants, 25% participants said that during this secondary school, they have too much. They have too much to memorize. They have too much to memorize. 56% say that a lot of things to be memorized. Only 19% said the memorizing part is manageable. Means it's all right for them. It's okay for them to memorize all those things. And we also found that 81% of those of the participants like to have a template or formula to answer science questions. Okay, they have the knowledge, they have the all those necessary tools, but yet they cannot start. They don't know how to start to solve the problem, and unless we give them some sort of formula or some sort of a template how to start to solve those problems. Okay, that's the problem with our students nowadays. Okay, and 8% participants said they use models in science classes. It means very little. The practices in school using visualization to teach the students very, very little actually. And 39% said their teacher use pictorial tools. And our teacher also actually do not practice visualization. As Dr. Soong said previously, we have visual, audio, and so on, kinesthetic and so on. But here we try to, as much as possible, to incorporate visualization just to make the students understand and the knowledge that they gather can be in coherent state, so they can use that all those knowledge to solve problem. But of course, that's our research has been cut short to that point, so we do not have all the results to present here. So again, from the bottom of my heart, I would like to apologize to LITEC for this, and I leave it to them to judge. Of course, the panel has nothing to judge, and if they think that we are not even deserve the certificate of participant, I would accept that with an open heart. Okay, that's all. Thank you very much, and I am sorry. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for your presentation, Encik Hilmi.
Yes.
Well, that's very interesting as well to see that the studies is actually will be involving with students in PASUM, right?
Yeah.
PASUM are those students who actually just finished the SPM.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can see that the results stated that they said that only 81%, 56% say that there are a lot of things to be memorized. So does this actually applicable in PASUM as well? I mean, does the teaching and learning in PASUM also involve memorizing rather than practical?
This 56% is just from their school, for their secondary level. They just to gauge how much the rote learning practice is in their previous education in secondary school. Of course, here also we still practice those rote learning because of our curriculum is just like that. We have a lot of content to present, so we have to spoon feed everything to the student. That's the practice at the moment. So I think this has to be changed, and of course it needs a lot of political will as well. Of course, a lot of Herculean tasks to change from the content-centered learning to problem-based learning that would let students not only have those knowledge but also capable of using the knowledge.
So the perceive of how the students, how the student perceive on what is actually been conducted in PASUM, you have not conducted that study. You have not conducted
not
that.
yet. Yes.
All right. Okay. All right. So, well, if in the future, if you have that, if you conducted that, then it might be really good for you to share with us in the next time.
I actually we want to extend the grants, but we haven't write that to the EDEC director.
All right. I will leave that to the to the management with that. Thank you so
Okay.
much, Mr. Hilmi, for your presentation. Very
Okay.
nice to have you today.
Okay,
All
welcome.
right. Thank you. I would like to wrap up with all the sessions that we have today. You can see that we have 6 presenters, and I learned a lot from all the 6 presenters, starting from the language anxiety, and then we have the coursework, the different styles of courseworks, and then we have the teaching economics with Dr. Thiru, who actually takes some initiative to conduct his own free English lessons to the students, which is something that is very inspiring. And then we have Mr. Iskandar that talks about collaborative outreach program between national schools, which is also something that is different in terms of teaching, blended learning and so on. And then we have Dr. Phan, who talks about multiple intelligence. And lastly, we have Mr. Hilmi. So all the sessions has been fruitful and insightful for all of us, and you can see that we are a bit on schedule, which is good. And I would like to thank every presenters for being here and for all the efforts and for all the sharing sessions. Now, before we wrap these sessions, I would like to just have some information, some info to tell you that the next session will start at 12 o'clock. Okay, with our second speaker, our second invited speaker, Mr. Nazrin Wahab, right, with his title of How to Engage Online Learners, the Virtual Classroom Management, something that I think I also would like to know, to listen to this sharing from Mr. Nazrin. So with that, this LITEC 2020 will have a break for about half an hour, and we'll begin our sessions at 12 o'clock. So thank you so much, everyone, and I hope that everyone enjoyed this conference and learn from each other. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Assalamualaikum. Hello everybody. We are back for our speaker number 2, Mr. Nazrin Wahab from Virtual Learncaster Certification. Hope everyone's ready. Mr. Nazrin, how are you?
I am doing very well, thank you. This morning I was with another university. I was teaching English, and now I'm here with you guys.
So we are all good. Okay, so let me introduce Mr. Nazrin to all our audience who are online. So the title of today's presentation will be a workshop, I would say, on how to engage online learners, virtual classroom management. So Mr. Nazrin, he's the founder of Virtual Learncaster Certification. He has 20 years experience in learning and development in the areas of personal and organizational development, and has delivered almost 12,000 hours of learning programs at both middle and upper management levels. In Cambodia, he has trained participants from Manulife, Prudential, RMA, Cambodian Public Bank, HKL Indochina Starfish Foundation, Lotus Green Team, SL International, and Forest and Livelihood Organization. Wow.
That is a lot.
I know. His key career role was Project Delivery Lead and Master Learning Coach at the Accenture Kuala Lumpur Connected Learning Centre for 7 years, where he delivered learning programs to employees from around the world. Nazrin has gained deep knowledge and skills in interpersonal, intercultural, and written communication, evidence in being accredited and certified by international bodies such as the TRACOM Group in Social Styles, Workforce Performance LLC, that is the Leadership Conversations, Information Mapping International, and Franklin Covey, the 5 Choices of Extraordinary Productivity. His experience has allowed him to develop effective learning content and services for clients. He has facilitated learning within Malaysia, Singapore, Australia, the Philippines, India, Cambodia, and the USA, and has served clients such as Henkel, BHP Billiton, Barclays Bank, Petronas and its subsidiaries, Talisman Energy, Celcom, IIUM, Felcra, and Kemas. Wow. I'm almost losing my breath.
Next time I need to give you a less embarrassing profile.
No. We should know, the audience should know who we are dealing with right now, yeah? So it's an honor to have you on board, Mr. Nazrin.
Thank you very much.
And we look forward to listening from you and learning from you. Floor is yours.
Thank you so much. So can I just confirm, because what I'm trying to do now is I cannot see the chat function, so I'm going to log on from my phone at the same time.
Okay.
Can I just confirm that everyone is here and ready to go? Sorry about that. So can I get confirmation that everyone is here and ready to go? Please type into the text chat, yes.
Right, so let's click on our chat. Click on
where does
our
that go?
chat
That goes
box.
to the Q&A, right?
There's a little text. Yes, there's a little text icon. And we click there. And let's all type yes. Yay!
I'm a little new to MS Teams, so let me just find that again.
Yeah.
Have I stopped sharing yet?
We can see your slides, virtual
You can see the
classroom
slides.
management.
Okay, but can you see the slides in full screen or not?
Not in full screen.
Not in full screen, okay.
No.
So still waiting for yeses?
We have another yes from Thiru. From Thiru.
We have 2 yeses. How about the people who are joining in from their browser? Can they chat as well?
They should be able to.
Okay. So for those of you out there in browser land, please tell me yes that you're ready to go. I only see 2 yeses so far. Anyone there at all? Okay, so we see Hilmi, yes. Azza, that's you.
Yeah, that's me, Azza.
We see Thiru that says yes. Okay, let's keep going. Who else is there?
Oh, look at the live event Q&A. Amri said yes, Anonymous said yes, Abbas said yes, Anonymous yes, Izal said yes. So, so it's the icon with the question mark, not the chat.
Icon with the question mark. Well done. Okay.
So not the conversation. So
all right. So on my phone, it's a bit late. It's popping up a bit late. But
yes,
everyone
so Wendy,
is
yes,
anonymous.
Yes. Okay, those who are anonymous, maybe you could either you log in using Microsoft Teams or you type in your name before you say anything. Like Azza here, yes,
That would be helpful,
something like that. Okay, so Intan says yes.
Okay, I see a lot of yeses. Good. So I know you're there.
Okay,
All I needed to know was that there are people alive and ready to go.
We are alive and well.
Okay, so it's my turn, correct?
Yes, over to you.
All right, everyone. I hope you can see me because I can only see Azza on the webcam right now. My name is Nazrin and welcome to our session today on virtual classroom management, how to engage online learners. And today, with as much as we can do over MS Teams, I'm going to show you some examples. I'm going to share with you some concepts that we actually teach in a course called the Virtual Learncaster Certification. And the VLC first ran in May 2020. It has churned out amazing people, about 200 people right now from all over the planet. We've had participation. And since it's a virtual course, we can easily have participation from across the planet. We have 11 countries. Off the top of my head, let's see if I can remember Malaysia, Singapore, India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Qatar, South Africa, Canada, the United States. I'm missing a few. Russia, Indonesia, and did I get to 11? So I get to 11. So that's 11 countries so far and growing, inshallah. So for those of you who are not aware, the Virtual Learncaster certification helps people who are already teaching offline you are the teacher or lecturer or a corporate trainer or you're a coach or instructor, we help them to pivot online, because there's always the concern, how do I teach online? How do I make it interesting? How do I make it engaging? Will they understand or not? So that's what we cover in the VLC, because the concept we say is you cannot take whatever you teach offline and you transfer it online. Look at the word I use. You cannot transfer it online. What you have to do is you need to transform it. And I love this word because it's one of my mentors. His name is Joshua Davis. He's based in Hong Kong. He's an amazing facilitator. Whenever you come online with him and he engages you online, you can stay there for hours. So the idea is this: if you make it interesting enough for people, they will want to come to your webinars. They will want to come to your virtual classes. But the question is how? So you need to understand certain basic concepts, and you need to understand how to apply those concepts. So today, in as little as 1 hour, I will do my best to demonstrate to you. At the same time, also have you practice with me as well. So the VLC conception starts with understanding what worries you first. Because what we like to do is we like to the first thing we do before we teach anything, we like to get the audience involved, to share some awareness, to get aware of certain concepts. So what are the problems that you face? What worries you about teaching online? I will mute my microphone for about 1 minute, 60 seconds, and I will look into the text chat. I want you to type into the text chat what worries you about online teaching. All right, so here we go. We have 1 minute. I'll mute my mic and I will focus on the text chat. Type in, please. Here we go. All right, thank you. We have a few. I think the moderator put this in. His or her concern is the student's response. We cannot see their direct feedback. And when you mean direct feedback, are you saying what you hear or what you see in terms of their faces? So if you could put a follow-up comment or question in there, that would be very helpful. Thank you. Let's see, who else? 60 seconds almost up. I don't see anything else. Okay. Content is not engaging. Anything else? It looks like a lot of the folk here are already quite experienced, because I have invited a lot of the VLCs. They are here today as well. Can I just get a show of hands? VLCs, are you in the crowd? If you are, type in VLC. There's a bit of a time lag, I noticed, between the Teams I'm on my laptop and the Teams I'm on in my phone. So I would expect a little bit late response. Okay, so for time's sake, what we're going to do is we're going to keep coming back to the text chat, but I'm going to continue. So in terms of how we share with people, because the course is a 1 month course and we only get to interact with the participants, my participants, for about 6 hours on end, we don't have time, or we don't have space, we don't have enough bandwidth in the brain to give too much detail. So what we do is we focus on the most core things, the most important things you need to have in order to teach online. And we call these the 3 T's. The first one is you must have the correct tools. When you think about online learning, you cannot run away from tools, because once you remove the tools, it's not online anymore. So you need some sort of intermediary, some sort of app or software in order to communicate from your side to the student side or the participant side. Second is you. Not only the software, not only the app, but there must be you. You as the teacher, you as the instructor, you as the facilitator, you are the one who make use of the tools. Because if you do not use the tools correctly, if you do not know how to use it creatively, there's a statement from one of my mentors, Professor Abdul Karim Alias, who was here yesterday, if you followed him. He likes to say this: a fool with a tool is still a fool. A fool with a tool is still a fool. So it does not matter how much money you spend on an expensive learning management system. It doesn't matter how much money you spend for such a fantastic Zoom or MS Teams account. But if you do not know how to use it correctly and engagingly and creatively, it will still be a boring webinar. when the person on the other end is falling asleep, or worse, they have gone to the kitchen and they're listening to you from afar. So they put you on speakers, they're in the kitchen already. So very important is your teaching methods. How do you teach? How do you engage? The third one is what we call technique. And technique here means instructional design. How do you design your course? How do you design your class? How do you design your engagement in such a way that it takes away a lot of your effort? Okay, someone who can design a good, strong course, the course itself can carry the learners from zero to hero. Why? Because if you have no plan and you come in just deciding to be, I'm just going to teach whatever I remember, it takes a lot of energy, number one. Number two, it's not structured, so it's difficult for people to follow. Some people might love it, they might love it, but not everyone can follow in a structured way, in a sequential and structured way. And number three, if you do not design properly, you might miss out certain things. And when we do instructional design, we must focus on several types of information. Maybe not types, but several levels of detail. If I were to ask you a question, what do your audience need in order to be able to teach online? And if the answer is 30 items, out of that 30 items, I'm going to ask you the question again. If you only had a short amount of time to teach them the core things that they need to go online, which 10 will you choose? And you will say, okay, this 10. If it's all 30, just 10, this 10. Then I'll ask you the question again. Out of this 10, which is the core 5 that you need to choose? And you go struggle. Okay, this 5. Do or die, they must know this. They must be able to do this. So you go for the bare minimum. This is what we call must-know knowledge. Okay, the must-know is something that you cannot do without. And this is what you teach in your virtual classes. So when we talk about virtual classes, it means the live synchronous event between me and you. In this, you cannot give too much information. You cannot give too much complex activities, because the more complex an activity, the more difficult it is for you to manage, and not everyone will understand. Some might be late, tak faham. How does this activity run? What's the instructions? So you have to, it takes a lot of time. So when we say you design it well, you want to design your virtual classes. Let's just say your course is 5 days long. 1 hour on Monday, 1 hour on Tuesday, 1 hour on Thursday, 1 hour on Wednesday, like that. Okay? So in that 1 hour, you focus on getting them to understand. If you give them too many activities in that 1 hour that you meet, then you'll find that there's confusion going on. I'm not saying no activities at all. I'm saying give them simple activities to help them understand. So what about the other details? So you have the must know. Second level is what we call good to know. Good to know information you don't actually put on the slides that you present, but you can verbalize to give context to the content. What is the content? It is must know. So you must verbalize to give a context to that content. What provides context? Stories, experiences, case studies, examples, things that give more meat and color to what they see on the slides. And you don't necessarily have to write that down. And then the third one is what we call nice to know. Nice to know provides them a bit more leeway, a bit more, general knowledge about other things. So where do you put that? Well, you need to have a repository. You need to have a space, a website where the participants can download their workbooks from. They can go and watch recommended videos. They can go do stuff that they don't need to do face-to-face online, virtually with you. So you must design the course in such a way where it is structured enough, it is blended. Once we used the word blended learning to mean offline and online. Now we have online blended, which is virtual class, synchronous, and then asynchronous, where they do self-studies. They watch videos that you recommend them to do. They read articles in PDFs or websites that you tell them to do before the next class. So here's the best part. The asynchronous part is not critical to understanding the synchronous part, because what's in there is only good to know and nice to know. What's must know is in the classes itself, in the virtual classes. So then you must also design an assessment, and lecturers will know this. The headache with assessments is online, I cannot see. So design the assessment in such a way where at one glance, you know that they understand the basics of the concept. And what we try to do is we try to go all the way to skill level. We don't try to go only to knowledge level. We go to all the way to skill level. So if, for example, I teach you how to use Zoom whiteboard, if I teach you how to use Google Jamboard, I want evidence that you know how to do it. So the assignment is, here are videos of how to use Jamboard. Here are videos of how to use Google Zoom whiteboard. More so, go and watch this, more so than what I explained in the virtual class. Watch this and then do this assignment. Send me a 3-minute video. Upload for me a 3-minute video of you sharing a Zoom whiteboard and an example of you using Google Jamboard. So when you watch that video, 3 minutes, don't ask for 7-minute video. If you have 30 students times 7 minutes, that's already 210 minutes of your time gone, right? So ask them for a 3-minute or 2-minute video that's nice and short, and you can assess them visually. So that being said, you must also be a subject matter expert, someone who can assess just by looking, okay? You must be able to know what signs you're looking for. So you build into assessment, what are in the rubric, what are the specific things you're looking for? If 1 or 2 is missing, then they will not get a full mark. For example, in my classes, we ask for a demonstration of Google Jamboard and a demonstration of Zoom whiteboard. And some participants, they only share Zoom whiteboard. They get 50% mark. Out of 100%, they get 50%. If they share only Jamboard instead of Zoom whiteboard, they get only 50%. If they share both, 0. If they don't share at all, or they don't submit at all, 0. So you want to design in such a way so that it takes the pressure off of your teaching, and you don't have to use too many tools to get your message across, to get them to understand. Now, I know not everyone understands what I just said, so what I'm going to do is we're going to do a little bit of activities here through in the next hour to get you familiar with it. Now, before we move on to some of those activities, I've put together a concept called the spectrum of online learning, specifically for tools. And what is the spectrum of online learning? I graded it from being facilitator-driven to learner-driven, not synchronous to asynchronous, but facilitator to learner, which means facilitator-driven on the left-hand side, it means that it is the facilitator doing a lot of the work to be able to get you to understand. Versus learner-driven, which means it's self-study. So if you look at the left as being live learning, right-hand side is more self-study, where the learner, their discipline, their want, their need drives the learning itself. So what are some examples we have? Well, very, very crudely, we have on the left-hand side a podcast. And I believe everyone here knows what a podcast is. It is a recorded audio that talks about subject matter that the person is expert in. So if they are expert in business or finance, then they'll run podcasts on finance based on their experience. And what interaction, what tool do you have here? You only have voice. So whatever tools that you use will fall into the category of voice. Voice recorders, WhatsApp recording. You can actually run a podcast in a WhatsApp group or Telegram group. Simple, right? Second, as we start moving more towards being learner-driven, we have a chat class. And I know some people might be surprised. I was pleasantly surprised myself. Before this, I did not believe you could run a course over WhatsApp or Telegram, but I actually attended a body language course on WhatsApp, a 10-day body language course where every night at 9 p.m. the teacher would switch on the comment function. You do know that in WhatsApp, you can actually stop participants, you can stop members from commenting. There's a toggle function to do that. So for the rest of the day, it's off. Nobody can comment in the group, so nobody can spam the group. At 9 o'clock at night, the teacher will say, "Welcome back to our class." And then he starts teaching, and then he turns on the comment function. He asks a question, and we answer the question. He puts in a photo. He asks us to analyze that photo from a body language perspective. He gives us a link to a video. We go and watch that video for 3 minutes, and then we come back. So it becomes very interactive because not just voice, but WhatsApp can do text, it can do videos, it can do pictures. It can do quite a lot of things. As we move towards the middle, we start noticing, okay, this is where, this is my comfort level. This is where my comfort area is. I believe I can do this a lot. So we either go for a virtual class, and a class means that they're actually teaching you how to do, when to do, what to do, or a webinar. In a webinar, it's usually just one way. There's not much interaction, not much direct interaction. At the most, you can ask a question and wait for the question to be answered at the end. So what's the difference here? In a virtual class, there should be even higher engagement, quicker response, Q&A. So if I ask a question in a text chat, the trainer will go, okay, let's go and see who has questions in the text chat. Okay, Nazrin asked the question. Okay, good. Let me ask the question now. And let me answer the question now. So a virtual class is what normally known as a synchronous class, where I'm teaching and you're learning at the same time. Webinar can also be synchronous, but it's one way mostly. Why? Because where does the word webinar come from? It comes from the word seminar. And if you've ever attended any seminar, you know you cannot directly interact with the speakers. A webinar is like a concert lah. You go like nobody sees you, right? The singer, the band does not see you. You can be screaming for your life, but they don't know you're there. So just like a webinar. What is the tool that we use for webinars and virtual classes? We call it a video conferencing tool. Video conferencing means that you must have voice, synchronous voice. You must have synchronous visuals. There must be the ability to turn on the webcam or a camera so that they can see each other. But as a lot of people say, well, a lot of my participants are very shy. They turn off their webcam. Well, why is a webcam necessary? Number one, if you have a control mindset, like certain managers, they insist that you turn on your webcam so that they can see you, because they are the old mindset of, if I cannot see you, I don't know whether you're engaged or not. Well, there are ways around that. There are ways to do that. Number two, because you're so used to teaching face-to-face, you cannot bear to look into a black hole, which is your webcam, and pretend to speak to someone. So this is a matter of comfort. That's number two. Okay. Number three, you want to see, because sometimes it just makes you feel better that you know that someone's listening. Okay. So the idea is this: if you teach online, you have to get used to staring into a black hole with the word Logitech sitting next to it. You just have to. And if you say it's impossible, well, singers, artists, newscasters, these people have been doing this for the longest time. The only difference is their camera hole is bigger, and there's a cameraman, there are makeup people running around. That's it. But if you're doing this alone, then it can be quite daunting. So familiarize yourself. There is no such thing as you cannot do. You just have to get better at it. As we move further to the right, we have what we call a recorded class. And a recorded class can be one of two things. It can be a virtual class or a webinar that was recorded, and you're just watching the recording in the future, or you actually design it from scratch. You actually design a recorded class, like how they do in Coursera, where the lecturers will pre-record and they will put it in as part of that class. It's not synchronous. You're actually watching it after the fact. So that being said, you must have a material repository, someplace to store all of your workbooks, your videos, someplace easy for participants to access. As we move further and further to the right, academicians will know what a MOOC is, a massive open online course, and it's supported by a learning management system. LMSs have the ability to store materials. Okay, they have the ability to assign assignments. They have the ability to return grades. So I believe every university in Malaysia has a learning management system based on Moodle. When I was teaching at UIA, their learning management system was called iTalim, very Arabic lah. So it's called iTalim. It was interesting to navigate. A bit difficult, a bit challenging in the beginning. But as you get used to it, you get used to the functions, you can have a lot of fun with it, right? So where a MOOC is concerned, MOOC or a massive open online course is rarely live. I think there are no such thing as live MOOCs, no synchronous MOOCs. They're all asynchronous, which means that you have to self-study. So the concept of a MOOC and taking it much further, much forward into what we call personalized learning or trends of the future in terms of learning is because you don't have a teacher watching you, because you don't have a teacher managing you, then what they have now is a system called an LXP, a learning experience platform. Now, some people call it an LEP, learning experience platform, same thing, but you get the idea. What it does is it has an AI, an artificial intelligence that runs the LXP that gets to know you very well. It gets to know how much you know. It gets to know how much you don't know. It gets to know how much you need to know. So if I were to give an analogy, have you ever wondered how Facebook seems to know what products you're interested in, and suddenly the advert will just pop up? Have you ever wondered why your YouTube account, the more videos you watch, the easier it is for YouTube to recommend you a video, because it's starting to know your preferences. How does it know? It watches what videos you don't click, and it watches what videos you do click, and it builds an algorithm in the back end that predicts your behavior, so much so that it knows you better than some of your best friends. So you take all that concept, that artificial intelligence concept, and you apply it to personalized learning, you get a learning experience platform. Okay, I'm going to pause right now, and I want everyone to go to the text chat. What questions do you have for me relating to this? If you have no questions, I request that you type in N for Nazrin, so that we can move along. And there's a reason I do this, because if I say, what questions do you have? Ask me your questions now, and then we play a waiting game. I wait for you, you wait for me, and we waste time. So if you have no questions, please tell me N in the text chat. Okay, I got one N so far. If you have questions, please ask me now. Okay, so Anonymous asked, will we get the slides or video on this talk? I will leave that to the moderators to answer. But if you do want these slides, you can certainly get them. Well, can I ask a question? I think I can ask a question. So I'm typing in from my phone, from an account called Nazrin Claude, and I'm putting in my email address right there. So anyone who's interested in the slides, anyone's interested in the slides can actually, how come I can't send? Oh, for goodness sake. I actually typed in the wrong one. So I'm giving you my email address. In the meantime, please type in no if you have no questions. All right, so there you go. No. Okay, let's see if there's any other questions. No questions, good. Okay, let's move on then. So when we talk about tools, we also need to talk about what are some of the examples or recommended tools out there. Now, please do not take my word as gospel. Take it as a recommendation. It is a personal preference, right? The most secure tool, even though I'm not favorable to it, I don't use it as much. One of the most secure tools is MS Teams, because there's an administrator account, there is someone watching it from the back. So MS Teams is by far the most secure so far. You have a bit old school Skype, we don't use that anymore. But then right now, very, very trending around the planet is Zoom. And I've been using Zoom since 2017 without any problems, without any hitches. And we do know that there have been issues with Zoom a few months ago. And depending on who you believe, whether it be a conspiracy theory or whether it be facts, Zoom did have some security issues. But most of those security issues had to do with people who did not understand how to use Zoom properly. So now what Zoom has done is they've beefed up their security. They've made high security default. So when you get a Zoom account, you actually get a very, very well protected tool that's not as easy for people to kacau lah. The people cannot just come into your sessions because the Zoom has made it a bit more difficult for that. But you see, if you share your meeting link on Facebook, anybody can come in anyway, right? So the problem with security is that sometimes it's not the tool, sometimes it's the fool behind the tool that's causing the security issues. All right. Then we have WebEx, the adik-beradik with Zoom. If you did not know, WebEx, Cisco, right? The owner of Zoom or the founder of Zoom used to work for Cisco, and he actually pitched the idea to Cisco, but Cisco was not interested. So he left and he made Zoom, and then only then that Cisco realized what the mistake they made. So they bought WebEx, and they've been building WebEx ever since. WebEx is the closest in terms of UX, in terms of user experience with Zoom. Only difference is Zoom tends to be better designed. Okay, it's more pleasing to the eye. It has a bit more reachability in terms of the tools that the tools and the functionalities. Okay. And of course, coming up very fast is Google Meet. Google Meet, I would say, is the simplest to use, and simple also means it doesn't have all of the other reliant functions that we need. What do we need in video conferencing when we want to teach online? Number one, web camera. Number two, voice, definitely. Number three, the ability to share slides or share screens or share content in any way, right? You must have chat function, because if you cannot talk to your participants or your participants don't have microphones, at least you can have a text chat with them. Okay. Bonus, sometimes you can stream to YouTube, you can stream to Zoom. Itu bonus lah. But for a closed virtual class, these are the basic functionalities you need. In terms of material repository, Classroom, Google Classroom is free. It is amazingly simple to use, but of course it's not pretty. It doesn't have the design elements because it was designed for teachers, so teachers can come in and quickly use it. You don't have the ability to change like your heading, your color scheme, nothing like that. So it's pretty much automatic. MS Teams also is a material repository because it's a full platform. It's a full system where you can store files, you can send emails to each other, send emails to within the organization and outside organization, as long as you're connected to MS Teams. Then we have openlearning.com. Openlearning.com is not free. You have to pay for it. If you are a teacher, okay, that's the term they use. As a teacher, when you want to teach on openlearning.com, think of Coursera, Udemy, EDX, right? Skillshare, things like this. Whenever you want to become a teacher, then you have to pay 100 ringgit a month. If I remember right, they change it all the time. And you get capacity for 250 students. But in open learning, what you can do is you can actually customize the look of the header, you can change the color of the background, you can customize quite a bit so that when people come in, they get to see the modules, they get to see the content, you can assign examinations and quizzes, and you can assign them reading to do. So it's a lot more powerful as a learning management system. Now, if you want to go low tech, high tech, low tech, this is called Padlet. And for those of you, let me just type in to the text chat what this is, Padlet. And at first glance, Padlet seems like it's a very simple tool, but if you practice, if you actually look at it very carefully, you can do a lot of stuff with it. I'm not going to demonstrate here today. I want you to imagine Padlet, Padlet.com. I want you to imagine Padlet like a board that we used to have, on our wall in our office, and you would put post-it notes on that board. That's exactly what Padlet looks like. Yeah, it has you actually put in post-it notes. You can type in text, you can upload documents, you can put in links, you can put in videos, right? You can link YouTube videos as well. And I don't know if there is a storage limit. I think there is a storage limit, but I haven't managed to exhaust it yet. So if you run a full-length 14-week class, then I wouldn't recommend Padlet. I would recommend you use Google Classroom or your local, if you have an LMS in your university, use that. Or if you're teaching, if you're a corporate trainer, you can use Open Learning. Padlet is for a shorter course, maybe 3-day, 5-day courses. And we have quite a lot of our VLCs who have mastered this. They're using this as well. Okay. Next, we have engagement tools. And engagement tools, some of you have heard of this, Kahoot, Mentimeter. Padlet can also be used as an engagement tool. What is the definition of engagement? Synchronous. Okay, so we can use that to, we put it out there. Participants can go and enter that particular website or enter that particular tool, and they can engage with the tool. Not engage with you, yeah? They can engage with the tool, but not necessarily engage with other participants. So that's the definition of an engagement tool. And then last but not least, some people might be surprised. I include what we call a quick response or a Q&A tool. You must have, I recommend you must have, and I recommend from my teachers and from making a lot of mistakes, you must have a quick response tool that is not email and that is not the video conferencing. Why? Because if anything happens, anything emergency happens, like, okay, we're not going to have class tonight, or worse, I am in the room, why is nobody in the room? Rupa-rupanya, you got the wrong link or you gave them the wrong link. So you need to have a quick response tool to be able to prep them for the class. After the class ends, you give them questions to answer, you give them homework, things like that. Because you need to have something that is faster than video conferencing. All right, so let's go back to the Q&A. What questions do you have so far? And again, you know the drill. If you have no questions, give me an N. See, it's faster. Yeah? All you have to do is tell me you don't have questions and we can move on. All right, I'm looking at the chat right now. No question. Now, you know what my teacher likes to say? Tak ada soalan ni, ada dua sebabnya. No questions, there's only two reasons. Either you understand very, very well, or you don't understand it at all. So please, if you don't understand, ask me a question. I only see two ends. Where's the rest? Where's everyone else? Okay, I will take two ends. I will take it and I will go. Okay, so the next concept I want you to take home is what we call the spectrum of engagement. It means that you are actually in different modes throughout your class. You cannot remain in one mode because it gets very, very tiring for you and for the participants. So you must have heard people giving you tips like, do not put too much text on the slides. You must also have heard people giving tips, or you must use a picture, and an engaging and inspiring picture on the slide so that people will love looking at the slide. But then you've tried that and you go, but I cannot remove all this text. This text is necessary on the slide. What do I do? Well, you see, these people give opinions based on how they engage what they teach. If you were to teach finance, if you were to teach calculations, it is not enough to put a picture of a mountain with some inspiring quotations. There's a reason for that. It's because it depends on at what mode you are in on the spectrum of engagement. Are you in high collaboration mode or are you in high control mode? So let me share with you the 4 modes of engagement. The first one is what we call SAGE. And the SAGE is what I am in mostly today. I am sharing my knowledge and experience with you, and then once in a while you're asking me questions. So the idea here is that I'm doing a lot more of the work. You're not doing as much of the work. As we come to the second one, facilitator, we're starting to share the burden of work. Okay, we're starting to share the burden of work. I am asking you questions and you are answering questions, and that will be a proper workshop. But sometimes certain tools, they're not as useful. So for example, MS Teams, you can use it for workshops, but the challenge is you can't see a lot of their faces. It's not as easy to do breakout rooms, like things like that, even though you have the function of a channel. So at facilitator level, we're sharing about the responsibility of interaction. Then we come into teacher. Now teacher, the definition here is that the teacher will insist that you understand something a particular way. And teacher mode is actually a little bit easier in that you can actually give them self-study. You can get them to study on their own, come back, and then you confirm. So in each of these modes, your measure or your mode of assessment is different. A SAGE, when they present to an audience, their mode of assessment is looking at the questions you ask. They want to know whether you have gained awareness of the topic or not. And today, technically, what I want out of you is at least you get an awareness of this topic. You get an awareness of what's going on in virtual teaching. For a facilitator, how they assess, they ask you questions and they ask you things like, so how do you think this will help you with your work? How do you believe that how will this impact change your life? And when you can come up with an answer that they look at and they go, okay, this person understands. And sometimes teachers or lecturers, it happens, you get an answer script. The question is the question is written, but the student misunderstood the question. Okay, misunderstood the question and actually wrote a really good answer on something totally different. And as a teacher, you know that this person misunderstood. It wasn't done on purpose. They misunderstood the question, but they gave a really good answer. And you have the authority, especially if you create the questions, you have the authority to say, okay, I know they misunderstood the question, but it's not fair to give this person 0. So I have evidence that they understood the concept, if not the exact question. So I'm going to give you marks anyway. So a facilitator can assess, they're looking for the answer to prove that you have bought in to the concept, you have understood the concept in such an extent that it's already become part and parcel of you. You will actually be excited to do this. A teacher assesses on how much you understand and remember and are able to reproduce. So in an exam, if you give questions that are, multiple choice, right? And as a teacher, you are more compliant or more compliance oriented, which means that if the question is right, you answered it wrong, even though it's a fantastic answer, you're still going to get 0. So why? Because a teacher needs to know that you understood it exactly according to the textbook. Because why? If a teacher works, if someone is teaching you high compliance knowledge, for example, oil and gas, medicine. Okay, medicine, there is only a right and wrong answer. Yeah? If you answer 30 milliliters versus the right answer is 1 milliliter, you as a teacher cannot say, oh, tak apalah, it's only 2 milliliters off. Hang on. If a nurse injects 1 milliliter less, it could mean death. 1 extra milliliter could be death. So where a teacher is concerned, they want to make sure that you understand it correctly. Now compare that to SAGE. When you go for a webinar, does the speaker confirm that you understand it correctly? Do they do tests? Do they do assessments? No. All they do is they ask you questions. So what did you take away from this? And if you type into the text chat what you took away, and they go, yes, I see that you have now gained an awareness of what I've talked about. Thank you very much. Goodbye. But a teacher, no, a teacher will insist that you give them the right answer. Now, that being said, we go to the last mode, which I think is the easiest to understand, and instructor mode. Instructor mode insists that you do it the right way, right? Even if you get the wordings wrong or the terminologies wrong, okay, fine. But I want to know that you can do this correctly. So what's the difference between teacher and instructor? A teacher will assess you based on how much you understand and remember and can reproduce. An instructor will assess you on how well you can do it. So very practical. So where do you see instructors a lot in real life? You see them in institutes. You see them in vocational schools. Because at the end of the day, I cannot just give you an exam to know whether you understand. I need to see you do it. So my question, tell me in the text chat, I'm going to give you a bit of a case study. Based on what I've just told you, if you wanted to learn how to bake a cake, will you go to someone who is in SAGE mode or someone who is in instructor mode? Tell me in the text chat right now. Is either of these two words. You want to go for someone who's in SAGE mode or someone who's in instructor mode? Okay. Someone says I do not look good on camera. I only got 2 answers. Keep going. I want to know whether you understand this. Why? Because I'm in teacher mode right now. So my assessment of you using the text chat is, I want to know whether you understood what I just told you. And if you can analyze that case study I just gave you and you can come up with the correct answer, then I know you got it right. Okay, let's try something else. How about if you want to know the history of baking? Where do you go? SAGE, facilitator, teacher, or instructor? You want to know the history of baking. Not how to bake a cake, but you want to know the history of baking. Okay, Amri says teacher. Someone actually says SAGE. Possible, because the SAGE will take you on a journey, right? How about if I change the question a bit? How about if you want to know the exact details of the history of baking? So thank you for giving me these answers, because it tells me that I did not frame my question correctly. So let me change the question. What if you want to learn the specific details of the history of baking? Yes, it is teacher, because a teacher deals with facts and figures. Facts, yeah, facts and figures, data, confirm knowledge, or at least as much confirm as possible. Maybe next year textbook will update, then they'll teach that instead. Okay, but when you go to a SAGE, what will a SAGE do? A SAGE will show you different types of cakes. So if you watch Asian Food Channel, right? Who watches Asian Food Channel? Give me a yes in the text chat. I cannot get enough of it, unfortunately. Who watches Asian Food Channel or any of these food travel channels? Wah, ramai. Yes, sometimes. Who else? Okay, so in these food travel channels, what normally happens is they take you from one place to another and they show you about the history of the place and the food that came out of that place. But if I were to give you an exam, if I were to give you a test, you wouldn't be able to ace it because exams tend to have very specific questions on specific details of the history of that. So saging is one way of introducing you, getting you aware of. But if you want to know more, you actually have to go to that place. You actually have to eat there. You actually have to learn about that place. Okay? Well done. Thank you very much. Let's give yourselves a round of applause. So we've covered tools. We've covered teaching. Let's talk about how we engage. Now, this might not be applicable to university semesters. But if you are a corporate trainer, this is one way you can do to engage your audience. And that is step one, engage them before the virtual class starts. Have synchronous sessions before the class starts. And I'm telling you this, when I first learned this, I was like, so much trouble, so much difficult. And I proceeded my virtual classes without doing this. You know what happened? It was a mess. It was just horrible. Participants did not engage. They did not buy in. They, ice breaking took such a long time. So when I started practicing this, I noticed that it was easier and easier to get them to engage, especially if I was in instructor mode. Because in the 7 days before, that's when you actually have to teach them the technology that they will be using, getting them used to Zoom, getting them used to how you can annotate on Zoom, getting used to YouTube. Because why? They need to upload their assignments, sometimes as a video, to YouTube. Getting them to be able to use Jamboard or Screencastify. They need to do this, they need to know this, because they need to do the assignments using those tools. So when we run the VLC, the Virtual Learn Class Certification, 1 week, week one is not even virtual class yet, which surprises some participants. They come in expecting, tonight got class. Today is week one, right? Yes, but week one is actually done over WhatsApp, over a quick response tool. And in that 1 week, what you do is two things. You bond yourself with the participant and you bond the participants to each other. That's when you give them their teamings and get them to start discussing in their own teams. So sometimes you create micro WhatsApp groups. You have a main WhatsApp group for the class. You have smaller WhatsApp groups for each little team so that they can get to know each other, they can interact with each other. Number two, before the class starts, you get the participants to do initial activities to get to know the material repository. In this case, I use Google Classroom. So I need them to know where everything is in Google Classroom. Where do you submit assignments? Where do you go and do your pre-reading? Where do you go and see all of the reference material that you can read later on to get more information? So you give them activities to get them to explore. And I learned this actually from when I was in IIUM. I was from International Islamic University. And you see, in UIA, as we call it, there is no ragging. So it's pretty boring. The way they rag you is they wake you up in the morning to go for prayers. But when we first joined, what happened was, right off the bat, they broke us up into teams of 6 or 7 people. So our batch was like, I think 400, 500, I can't remember how, we were a lot of people, 1,000, I think 1,000 plus people. And we had teams of 6. And the teams of 6 had to do a treasure hunt in the campus. I don't know if this happens everywhere else, but I've experienced this and it was fun. So in the treasure hunt, they got us to visit the clinic, admissions and records, the lecturers' rooms, the canteen, the mosque, everywhere on campus. And by the end of the treasure hunt, you know what happened? We became familiar with the campus. We knew all of the most important places in the campus. And I think UM calls yours Minggu Haluan Siswa, right? So ours was Ta'aruf Week. Ta'aruf Week is orientation week. So if you look at orientation week and you apply that to a virtual class, how much will that help, you think? It will help because it familiarizes everything, and you will never ask your lecturer, sir, where's A&R, where's admissions and records, where's your room? Because then there's a lot of confusion. So if you take that concept, okay, let's do it this way, right? I want you to imagine that you do not have an orientation week. You come into university, first day is class. What would happen? So that's exactly what happens to virtual classes. That's exactly what happens to online classes, because there is no prep. So this is what we do. And just before the class starts, let's just say we normally have our classes at 9 o'clock at night. Why? Because most of our participants are professionals. They work during the day. And 9 p.m. is the perfect spot. I experimented for about 3 years. 9 p.m. is the perfect spot. It's after dinner. It's after the kids are asleep, mostly. It is after you're winding down for the day. It is after you've done your Salat Isha, right? So it's after the last prayer of the day. 9:30 is a bit too late. 10 o'clock is worse. 8:30 a bit too early. So 9 to 10, that 1 hour class at night, just perfect. So before the class starts, say it's 9 o'clock, at about 8:30 or 8:20, you pop into the quick response group and you go, okay, who's ready for class tonight? Give me an I. Tell me you're ready. And then 2 people will type in I. So what you do, you go, oh, okay, it looks like there's only going to be 3 of us. Never mind, we'll have fun, there's the 3 of us. And the others go, oh, alamak, he's actually expecting an answer. And they start typing I. Oh, that means, okay, the teacher is actually expecting you to respond. So what you do is, if you do this enough, what happens is you condition them. You start conditioning them to such an extent that the next time you say I, tell me an I, they will immediately respond. And if you notice, I've been doing this to you. I've been asking you, if you have no questions, type in an N. The first time I asked that, it took a very long time for the N's to come out. The second time, a bit faster. The third time, even faster. Why? Because I've already conditioned you, you're already used to it. So then what do we do when we get in class? Well, here's what I recommend. Because you cannot look at the webcam all the time, not you as the teacher, but because the audience cannot look at the webcam all the time, and sometimes they run away, they listen to you from afar. So facial expressions are not as necessary unless you are saging or unless you are facilitating, because saging and facilitating tend to be quite emotional interactions. But if you are teaching or instructing, you need them to focus on the content and the slides, not your face. And some good evidence comes from Khan Academy, founded by Salman Khan, not the Bollywood actor. Salman Khan is a former engineer who set up the Khan Academy to help students across America to learn online. So initially he set it up to help his nephews and nieces to learn. So he coached them, he tutored them. But what happened was, back then, he says bandwidth was very low. So he switched off his webcam. And he found that when he did that, his nephew and niece could actually learn better because he was using a tablet, he was drawing on a tablet, and it showed up on their end as calculations. So imagine you writing on a whiteboard and your student on the other end is interacting with you. Is a webcam necessary? No, because you're focusing on what's on the slide, what's the content. So this is where, ladies and gentlemen, this is where those opinions that you heard clash. They say, don't put a lot of content on your slides. Well, if you are a teacher, if you are an instructor, it's very difficult not to. In fact, it is dangerous not to. You must have it there. But that being said, you must also adhere to good design principles. Janganlah banyak sangat, no many bullet points lah. Yeah? The general idea is 9 bullet points and less. Even 9 is too much. Okay, between 5 to 7 is the maximum. And then break it up to another slide, or break it up as a pre-read, or break it up as a post-read. But you can actually design it well if you know what is must know. You put on a slide. Then the good to know and need to know, you can put it somewhere else in the repository. Number 2, you can always turn things into graphics. But the danger with this is there are opinions out there that you must turn everything into a graphic. Now I want you to imagine if I remove all the text from the bottom of the slide and I only leave the 2 WhatsApp logos, I leave the classroom logo and the Zoom logo. Would you understand? No, you would gain an awareness, but you will not get proper locked in understanding the way I want you to understand. So best is a mixture between diagrams, graphics, and text. And that's what good instructional design does. Now, last but not least is, do not run complex activities online in a virtual class. especially very early into the class. Baru-baru belum buka semester, you give very difficult ones. No, give them simple ones to do, because if you give them simple ones to do, it is easier for them to manage. Where do you use the complex ones? You use the complex ones much later on. Okay, so either that or offline. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you an activity where we can actually do this a simple activity. And I'm going to share my screen again. If you are still here, type in Y to the text chat so I know you're there, please. I really need to know. Tell me in the text chat you are there. All right, yes. Who are you, anonymous? You took to me youthful days at IUM. Who are you? All right, let's give you a very simple activity just to prove a point that you can do this. I'm going to give you 1 minute, everyone, to find the hidden words in this graphic. All right, I'm going to give you 1 minute. Type into the text chat what words you find. Ready, set, go. Somebody has typed in or. Okay, let's see. Let's keep going. Somebody typed in page. Okay, age. You have 25 seconds to go. Wow, a lot coming in. I see story, page, words, story. Okay, time is up. Let's see what you missed. Okay. So we got book. Nobody got book. That could be a reason, maybe because the screen that you are using right now, maybe the screen is too small, or you're on your phone. But even if you're on your phone, you can actually squeeze to zoom in. Or your Microsoft Teams screen, I don't know how the setting is. You might have set it to smaller than is necessary. Okay, somebody managed to get novel. Good. There's story. There is words. Somebody got words. Good. There's page. There is novel. But looking at the text chat, nobody got read. Wow. Well done to those who got this. Let me give you one more try. You now have 45 seconds. Round 2. Find the words in this picture. Ready, set, go. "45 seconds. Somebody got puddle. Somebody got wet. Not bad. Keep going, keep going. All right, time is almost up. Damn. Storm. Why is it only all the moderators answering? Kaudi, Adel? What the heck is an Adel? Somebody got showers. Okay, time is up. Well done. Let's see what you missed. Clouds. Yes, it's hiding in there. Some people are beating themselves up right now. We have stormy, not just storm, but stormy. We have puddle, not puddle. We have wet. Somebody got that. Did anyone get showers? Somebody got showers. And we got damp. All right. So before we go to Q&A and close today's session from me, I'll give you one more chance. This time you only have 30 seconds. Ready? Here we go. Find the words hidden in this slide. Go. 30 seconds, guys. 30 seconds. Ooh, not bad. Yeah, I see that some people are lagging. That's okay, that's okay. You get the point anyway. I mean, you get the, yeah, I'll give you stars. Go ahead. Okay, time is up. Well done. Let's see what you got and what you missed. Almost everyone got frost. Did anyone get ice? No, no one got ice, at least not yet. But somebody managed to get mittens. Amazing. Snow. Nobody got boots. Anyone got boots? No one got boots. And we got chill here. So that's how I roll, because Nazrin is someone who doesn't trust tools as much. My first job was as a journalist, and I used to love using the tape recorder to do interviews. And my editor constantly said to me, Nazrin, do not trust your tools. Do not trust electronic tools. And I go, yeah, old man. Then there was one day I did an interview. I know I recorded it. I know I clicked record. But when I got back to the office, there was no interview recorded on the tape. And I was horrified. I had to immediately sit down and just pull from memory whatever I remembered. That was the worst article I wrote ever in my life, because it was more about what it was from my perspective, and then once in a while it was the other guy saying something, and I always paraphrase. So ever since then, I don't trust tools as much, because tools can always disappoint you. They can always go down if you're using an external tool like Kahoot. Kahoot, look at this. Kahoot went from being free to now being paid, and if you did not know that, it's a rude awakening, right? You plan your class to use Kahoot, sekali tengok, oh, it's free now, it's paid now, and you get the rude shock of your life. And the best part is, they don't tell you this stuff. They don't update you and say, oh, this is going to change. People were using WebEx for free, and because you don't look out for these press releases, right? So you don't know. Suddenly it just goes to 50 minutes. You're happily teaching your class, thinking you have a lot of time, and it just cuts off like that because WebEx has come to 50-minute limit. All right. So that's why I tell my facilitators, I tell my VLC folk that you want to design for the lowest common functionality. What's the lowest common functionality? It is internet connection, bandwidth. It is whether they can show their webcams or not. It is whether they can visit websites or not, right? One of our facilitators is having an issue right now. His client insists cannot use any external websites, cannot use, if I read that right, cannot use any Google tools. So no Google Suite, no Google Docs, Google Sheets, Jamboard, nothing. And he's scratching his head now how to make it interesting and engaging. So maybe at the minimum, you fall back to this. So ladies and gentlemen, that's what I have for you today. I'm going to pass back to our moderator for this afternoon. And I guess we have a Q&A session, very quick one.
You stop so suddenly like WebEx.
Okay, so let me continue and then slowly hand it back to you.
No. Thank you so much.
All right.
We were enjoying this session so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Nazrin. Let me open the floor for any questions that our participants can type in the Q&A section. But before that, I noticed a point you made in the tool spectrum of online learning slide, where you mentioned personalized learning being more learner driven, and because the theme of the conference right now is personalized learning.
Yes.
And we get a lot of sense where personalized learning is tiring, and a lot of effort has to be made by the lecturers because you have to one-to-one attend the students. But we were quite surprised to see the personalized learning word coming at the other end of the spectrum, which is the learner-driven spectrum.
Yep. Personalized learning as a concept per se. Hang on a sec. Can you see my slide? Because
yes, we can see your slide.
Which one?
Tool spectrum of online learning.
Okay, that's interesting. I think there's a bit of a lag because on my phone, I see it as the first slide. Okay, so when we talk about online learning, it's different from personalized learning, which is face-to-face. So personalized learning here is that it means that they are still being supported, but they're being supported by the system, by LXP. When you do personalized learning supported by the lecturer, yes, it'll be tiring. The concept remains the same, but what is supporting that learning? Is it a human being, or is it what's the word? Is it a
AI?
AI. So what I would recommend is to take a bit of pressure off of that. Personalized learning can also use concepts like flipped learning, right? I hope everyone is familiar with flipped learning. Flipped learning in corporate jargon, we don't call it flipped learning, we call it teachbacks. And in a teachback, you actually self-study and you teach it back to the rest of the class, and whatever gap that's missing, the lecturer fills in. So I remember doing this at UIA when I was teaching intercultural communication, live, right, face-to-face, not in the classroom. I looked at the 14 weeks and I go, this is such a mess. I can't teach 14 weeks. So I taught 7 weeks and the students taught 7 weeks. So we flipped it based on everything I've taught in the first 7 weeks. Everything else after is mostly just derivative. The core concepts are in the first 7 weeks. And what happened was they taught themselves, they learned for themselves, and they presented. And wherever there was a gap, like it was a mistake that they made, a wrong fact, or maybe they missed out something, then I would add that in. So when you do it online, what you can do is you break them up into teams and you set mentors for each team, or you set a facilitator for each team, or you identify who are the strongest students that you have in that group, and you make sure they are in that team. You appoint them as a team leader. So there are many ways to do this, many ways around it, but the idea is that you don't actually have to take it all on yourself. You don't. Personalized learning can be supported by a human being or by a system. But I do understand lecturers have a lot of students. So I think that can be a discussion for a different day.
Yeah, and we also tend not to have the AI facility that the LXP might be able to provide. Yeah,
it's not cheap. I'll say that it's not yet.
Yeah, but we get the idea. We have one question now from Dr. Amira. Coach Nazrin, how do you manage to maintain personalized learning and coaching for 200 VLCs?
By sheer effort of love and care. So the reason she's asking this question is because we have had 5 cohorts of VLCs already, and we total about 200. Well, actually less than that, because about 5 of them was taught by somebody else. But yeah, we have about 200. So yes, the question is valid. How? I have no idea. All I do know is that you want to help them to become independent learners. So the important parts of the course, the way you design it is you must design it so that it challenges them towards skill. If it challenges them only towards knowledge, what happens is they will still keep coming to you. When a human being gets to skill level, they become independent. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so knowledge versus skill. Skill is when you practice your knowledge in various situations until you master most of those situations. Like riding a bicycle. When you first started riding a bicycle, you had knowledge of how to ride, but you still needed to practice. Oh, kalau tanah macam ni, you ride like this. Kalau tanah berbukit macam ni, you ride like this. So skill is the ability to adapt to an external situation using the knowledge that you've learned. So my job is to get them to skill level as fast as possible, so I don't need to coach them anymore. Yes, I hope that answers the question. Help them become independent, and you will not need to coach them as much. In fact, when they come to you for really important things, because the others they can figure out themselves. I hope that answered the question.
Yes, you did. And did you see any difference in approach that is required for students at different levels, like first year versus final year, or the subject matter, based on your experience?
That's going to be a bit of a sensitive subject again, because we talk about this a lot in universities. We talk about how we do assessments and how we do development. But here's the challenge. Universities as a whole, I apologize, but universities as a whole, they don't do development. What we talk about in development, you usually see in institutes, you see in vocational institutes, you see in practice institutes where they get skill. So we want to move away from just being knowledge focused to being able to get them to be skills focused. And I know there's a lot of faculties that are already doing this, but some are still a bit hang back. You pass exam because you can memorize or remember things. But what if we give you an actual problem to solve? What if you could solve a kampong's problems using what you learn in university, right? So the idea is this: the different levels you say, first year, second year, third year, fourth year, we expect that by the fourth year they become independent learners. They can learn on their own, but you don't see that. That's not the case. So to answer your question, we need to take a step back and say, right now they look the same to me. First years and fourth years, they look pretty much the same, because right now I'm doing a fourth year program, and it's pretty much basic. Dia masih takut tanya soalan. They're still scared to ask questions. They're still, they will always preface their sentences. Mr. Nazrin, I'm not sure if this is correct, but comma and then the answer. So it means that we have not managed to create a lot of independent individuals, and that tells me they have not gotten to the skill level yet. It's still knowledge in their head. So unfortunately, my answer would be, sometimes you need to be basic all the way. But what happens is, with a public course, right, not like university, public course like what we run, sometimes you get people of way different levels. Mm-hmm. There'll be people who have never used a laptop before. There'll be people who have never used Zoom before. So that needs a bit of extra personal coaching. Sometimes what I do is I give YouTube videos, go and watch and familiarize. But even then, they still want to face-to-face, or they want to have that. So it is a challenge. But if you solve the fundamental problems right there, like don't know how to upload to YouTube, after that, it's easy. Right? I had one participant, I had to go to his house. This is an online course, by the way. I had to go all the way to his house in USJ just to show him how to use Google Classroom. You know what? After that, senang. That was the only bottleneck. After that, it was fantastic. He ran his webinar online, supposed to be 1 hour, became 2 hours. He was saging all the way, and the participants did not want to leave. So yeah. The question, I know what the question, what you're asking the question for, but I have to add that we want to aim for better than that, because right now it looks the same to me. Thank you.
I guess it comes down to us, the academics, who design and instill these values to the students, to our students, on what's expected of them. And I really like your point on the skills. Giving them the skills, at least one course, one skill, that is enough for them to feel that they can do it and they could carry it forward, regardless of the 14 weeks course that you teach and so much information and knowledge and mathematics or whatsoever. But if you instill one skill that they can take throughout their life from that course, I think you are already successful as a lecturer. That's right. And I know we're running on time a little bit, but I want to say one last thing, because I don't see any other questions. Sure. When I taught intercultural communication at UIA, and I wanted to bring in a bit of what we do in the corporate training world into university. And I'll say this to lecturers, I don't know how you do it. I have no idea how you tahan for 14 weeks with these people, because we out there, we do 2-day program, we become like superstar hotshots, and then we say bye-bye, right? But for you guys to do 14 weeks of any course is amazing. So I thank you for the opportunity to let me teach in university for 2 semesters. I learned a lot about that. At the same time, what I did was I brought in corporate training methodologies, wherein we don't allow them to just stick at knowledge level. We push them all the way to skill level. So all of the assignments I gave them in intercultural communication, one of them was to actually go and find a foreigner in UIA and make friends with them. Can you imagine? They say, "Sir, janganlah sir, go and do. Otherwise, you will not get your marks." So they actually went and I actually had to teach them a sentence. "Excuse me, sister, I have an assignment from my lecturer, and my assignment is to come and find someone not from Malaysia and be friends with them. Can I be your friend?" And they actually did it, and it worked. And to this day, I'm still on Facebook with them. The people they met for the assignments are still good friends with them. Whether they're from Africa, or from Saudi, or from Pakistan, whatever, they're actually still good friends with them. And the change, if you cannot change their behavior, then the knowledge that you gave them is for what? They go out there, they become good memorizers, but they cannot put it to work. And if they cannot put it to work, they cannot make the world a better place, because they're not appliers of knowledge. They just become suppliers. And that being said, I'm going to hand it back to you. That's all I have for you guys today. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Nazrin. What a wonderful session we had today. I believe if we can all hear, you get multiple big claps from the audience. Thank you so much. So we've reached the end of our day 2 morning session. We're up for lunch now. We're so happy that you were able to join us, Mr. Nazrin.
Thank you.
I'm sure you would be able to provide your contacts for any other people to contact you later for more coaches and workshops. So we will.
I'll be happy to. I'll be very happy.
Thank you. We will end today's first half of the session for our lunch and solat break. But just be reminded that we will see you for the next session at link number 4. The link is on the screen right now, bit.ly/LITEC 2020_link 4. And whatever we have run through in the first link, in the first half of today, link 3 should be already recorded, and you could access it anytime if you want to have a look at it back at a later date. Okay, so I will see you guys around at 2 p.m. for the next series of presentations from our Litarians. See you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for coming.
Bye-bye.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullah.